Nepali Congress President proposes roadmap for 15th General Convention, sets September date for leadership reset. Local administration declares bird flu affected areas in Chhath as crisis zones, infected chickens being destroyed. Public urged caution. The world marks Tuberculosis Day today. Around 67,000 cases and 16,000 deaths reported annually in Nepal. Colombian military plane crash kills at least 66. Rescue teams search wreckage as investigation continues into the course. White House says plans for possible talks with Iran remain uncertain. Global oil prices once again climbed above $100. And Yanik Sinner surpasses Djokovic's 10-year record for most consecutive sets won at ATP Masters, defeating cruelty at Mayan Open. Good evening, I'm Shivani Thapa Bosniath and this is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere, it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo, and just after midnight in Sydney. The details now. We begin in Kathmandu, where the Nepali Congress has laid out a definitive timeline for its political future. Party President Gagan Thapa has proposed a comprehensive roadmap leading towards the 15th General Convention, signalling a period of significant internal restructuring for Nepal's largest democratic party. The proposed schedule marks 9th and 10th September as the dates for the national gathering. However, the process is set to begin much sooner. Starting 4th April, the party will initiate a nationwide drive to update, distribute and verify memberships. Under the party's plan, the final list of active members is expected to be settled by mid-July 2026, paving the way for conventions at the local level. Addressing the Central Working Committee, President Thapa underscored a shift in the party's immediate priorities. Beyond internal logistics, Thapa addressed the Congress's role in the current political landscape.
साउन 12 गते गाउँ नगरपालिका अधिवेशन गर्छौं, साउन 23 गते प्रदेश सभाको अधिवेशन हुन्छ, साउनको 30 गते महाधिवेशन प्रतिनिधि चयन हुन्छ र कार्यसमितिको निर्वाचन हुन्छ, भदौ 6 र 7 गते जिल्ला अधिवेशन हुन्छ, भदौ 15 र 16 गते प्रदेश अधिवेशन हुन्छ, भदौ 24, 25 र 26 गते नेपाली कांग्रेसको 15औं केन्द्रीय महाधिवेशन हुन्छ। सबै साथीभाइलाई कुनै पूर्वाग्रह नराखिकन हामी सबैलाई सहभागी गराएर सम्मिलित गराएर अधिवेशनमा लिएर जान चाहन्छौं। हामी सबै साथीहरुका सन्दर्भमा र म सबै साथीहरुसँग मद्दत गर्नु चाहिँ अपेक्षा पनि गर्छु।
Thapa also addressed the party's performance in recent polls, confirming he had previously offered his resignation from presidency to take responsibility for the election results. Thapa noted that the upcoming convention remains the final authority on the party's future leadership and strategic direction. He further called for strong anti-corruption measures, including investigations into illegal assets of public officials since 1990. The party has completed its initial election review and plans to expand the review process across all 7 provinces. Nepal's Ministry of Finance is moving ahead with budget preparations for the next fiscal year, despite the wait for a new government following the March 5th elections. Facing a sluggish economic recovery and weak revenue, the ministry has issued a directive to all line agencies: cut spending now. The National Planning Commission has capped the upcoming budget at 1.89 trillion rupees, ordering ministries to freeze non-essential administrative costs. The priority remains on national pride projects and mandatory obligations. To bridge the fiscal gap, a new Revenue Advisory Committee has been formed to overhaul tax and customs reforms as the country navigates this political transition. In a major push for decentralization development, subnational governments have submitted approximately 3,500 projects for federal funding in the upcoming 2026-27 fiscal year. The National Planning Commission confirms that the bulk of these proposals, over 3,300, come from local levels, while provinces have put forward 140 initiatives. These projects are vying for critical equalization and special grants from the federal government. Assistant spokesperson Dr. Diwakar Luitel states that the Commission is currently analyzing costs and feasibility for nearly 2,800 new plans alongside 678 carryover projects. The final selection will determine the pace of grassroots development and infrastructure across Nepal in the year ahead. An emergency alert has been issued in eastern Nepal. The district administration office in Jhapa has confirmed an outbreak of bird flu in commercial poultry farms across Damak and Jhapa rural municipalities. Officiating Chief District Officer Tej Prasad Prasai has declared the affected farms as epicenters, enforcing a complete ban on the movement of poultry, eggs and feed in these areas. In Damak Ward number 10, hundreds of layers of chickens were culled on Monday after the virus was confirmed. Veterinary officials have warned the infection is spreading, with reports of bird deaths now coming in from Mechinagar and Arjundhara. With cases also recorded in neighbouring Morang and Sunsari districts, authorities are urging farmers to adopt high-level precautions to prevent a wider agricultural crisis. Yes, we can end tuberculosis. That is the global rallying cry today as Nepal marks World Tuberculosis Day. With 67,000 new cases and 16,000 deaths reported annually in Nepal, the government has set an ambitious target to end the epidemic by 2035. Nationally, tuberculosis or TB remains a major public health challenge, but experts emphasize it is entirely curable. Health officials have urged anyone with a persistent cough or chest pain to seek immediate testing. Treatment is provided free of cost at all government health facilities, a critical pillar in Nepal's journey to becoming tuberculosis-free by 2050. A short break is lined up here. We will be right back. A tragic start to the week as 7 people have been killed in a series of road accidents across Nepal. Police report fatalities in Sarlahi and 2 separate incidents in Chitwan involving a tanker and a mixture machine. In the hills, a jeep driver died in Parbat while 3 others, including the driver and 2 passengers, lost their lives when their vehicle overturned in Doti. The latest casualty occurred today in Rupandehi, where a young man succumbed to injuries after being hit by a truck. Highway safety officials are once again urging drivers to exercise extreme caution as investigations into these separate incidents continue. A landmark shift in Nepal's identity laws. Since the implementation of the 4th Amendment to the Citizenship regulations, nearly 2,950 individuals have now received citizenship in their mother's name. The 2082 Bikram Sambat Amendment, approved last December, significantly eases access for children of Nepali mothers with unidentified or deceased fathers. Under the new rules, self-declaration is now recognized as a formal legal basis, a move hailed by advocates as a major step towards gender equality and universal documentation. In the domestic market today, the price of gold and silver saw a slight decline. According to the Federation of Nepal Gold and Silver Dealers Association, fine gold dropped by 1,600 rupees, now trading at 273,900 rupees per tola. That's about 11.66 grams. Silver followed the downward trend, falling 80 rupees to settle at 4,505 rupees per tola. This local cooling mirrors the international market, where gold is currently hovering around $4,400 per ounce. The Gold and Silver Dealers Federation suggests the dip is driven by a stronger US dollar and the shifting global interest rate expectations. The rituals of Chhath have begun across the Tarai Madhes region, marking the Chaitra edition of this ancient solar festival. In Dhanusa and surrounding districts, decorated ghats have come alive as devotees gather to pray for family well-being and prosperity. Observed twice a year, the 4-day festival concludes this week. Devotees will offer the Archery to the setting sun tomorrow evening, followed by prayers to the rising sun on Saptami morning. While the Kartik Chhath remains the largest, the Chaitra celebration continues to see growing participation across Nepal's southern plains. A short break before we check out the international updates. Do stay tuned. A Colombian Air Force plane crashed shortly after takeoff in the south of the country, leaving at least 66 people dead and dozens others injured, according to the officials there. Air Force Commander Carlos Fernando Silva Rueda said 114 Army personnel were on board, as well as 11 crew members. The plane, a US-made C-130 Hercules used for transporting troops, came down near the town of Puerto Leuzamo in Putumayo province. Emergency workers said to the area were seen scorching through the wreckage for survivors. The cause of the crash is being investigated. Colombian Defense Minister Pedro Sanchez said ammunition being carried on board also detonated as a result of a fire on the aircraft. The incident is one of the deadliest accidents in recent history for Colombia's Air Force. The US-Israel-Iran conflict entered its 25th day today, with tensions rising over conflicting claims about ongoing talks. US President Donald Trump said he delayed planned strikes on Iranian energy facilities, citing recent productive conversations aimed at easing tensions. However, Iran denied that any negotiations are taking place. Iran's foreign ministry said it has received messages through friendly countries about US interest in talks, but has not responded, and its position on the Strait of Hormuz and war-ending conditions remained unchanged. The situation follows escalating tensions after US-Israeli strikes began on February 28, triggering retaliatory attacks by Iran and its allies across the region. A dire warning from the United Nations tonight as the conflict in the Middle East enters its 23rd day. UNICEF reports that more than 2,100 children have now been killed or injured, an average of 87 every single day. UNICEF Deputy Executive Director Ted Chaivan describes the toll as devastating, warning that a wider conflict would be catastrophic for millions. Meanwhile, UNESCO is alerting the world to a deepening learning crisis, citing the loss of teachers and the exclusion of the region's most vulnerable students. The impact is also shaking the global economy. UNOPS Chief George Da Silva warns that disruptions to shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz are driving up fuel and food prices, hitting developing nations in Asia and Africa the hardest. The UN maintains there is no military solution, calling for an immediate ceasefire and a diplomatic path forward. In the meantime, China has urged all relevant parties to immediately cease fire, end hostilities and resume peaceful dialogue in response to the United States' claim that it had postponed planned strikes against Iran's power plants to allow for negotiations. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian said the situation could further destabilize the region and undermine international peace and security at a press briefing in Beijing.
战事延宕 不符合任何一方利益，停火止战、停火对话是唯一的出路。中方对当前的局势不断升级外溢，冲击地区和国际和平稳定深感担忧，呼吁相关各方立即停火止战，尽快回到和平对话的轨道上来。
Qatar has said that it supports all diplomatic efforts to end the war with Iran after US President Donald Trump announced there had been communication between Washington and Tehran.
لكني أؤكد هنا أنه ليس هناك حاليا أي جهد قطري مباشر فيما يتعلق بوساطة بين الطرفين. تركيزنا حاليا ينصب بشكل كامل على الدفاع عن بلدنا والتعامل مع الخسائر الناتجة عن الهجمات المختلفة التي تعرضت لها دولة قطر، ولكن التواصل كما رأيتم من خلال ما قرأته قبل قليل الاتصالات مع الدول الأخرى سواء على مستوى المنطقة أو دوليا، اللقاءات متعددة الأطراف التي تمت خلال الفترة الماضية.
Meanwhile, the price of Brent crude has climbed back above $100 a barrel after plunging on Monday. On Tuesday morning in Asia, the oil benchmark was up by 3.75% at $103.69, while NYMEX light sweet was 3.42% higher at $91.55. The price of Brent fell by more than 10% on Monday after US President Donald Trump delayed fresh strikes on Iran that was seen as an escalation of the conflict and said a peace deal could be reached soon. But now investors are weighing that against Tehran's denials that it has held talks with the United States. At least 5 people have been killed in Russian strikes across Ukraine after a massive overnight aerial bombardment targeted several regions across the country. A 61-year-old woman was killed when a drone hit an electric train in Kharkiv early on Tuesday, while other deaths were reported in Zaporizhzhia, Kherson and Poltava. Officials said the attacks were among the worst in 10 days and came hours after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had warned of a forthcoming massive strike in his nightly address. Russian strikes targeting energy infrastructure also disconnected Moldova's key power link with Europe, President Maia Sandu said, warning the situation remained fragile. Attacks of this scale have been occurring roughly once a week or every 10 days in recent months, and there have been mounting fears in the past few days that another wave of strikes was imminent. More from the international front when we come back after this short break. Australia and the European Union have agreed a sweeping free trade deal after 8 years of negotiations. The deal, worth about 10 billion Australian dollars, was with Australia's Prime Minister and the head of the European Commission, describing it as a mutual win-win. As well as removing almost all tariffs on trade, the two have also agreed to increase cooperation on defence and critical minerals. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described the deals as having a focus on collective resilience in a world that is deeply changing. Under the deal, almost all EU tariffs will be lifted on Australian agricultural products such as wine, fruit and vegetables, olive oil, seafood, most dairy products and wheat and barley. This will mean a saving of about 37 million Australian dollars for local wine producers and exporters, according to the Australian government. A landmark initiative has been launched under the BIMSTEC framework to enhance regional trade and connectivity. The BIMSTEC Business Council will provide a platform for member nations to collaborate on investment and economic opportunities. The initiative marks a new chapter in connectivity and collaboration among the 7 member nations of BIMSTEC, including Nepal. The council is designed to boost trade, investment and business partnerships in the region. It will act as a dedicated platform to bring together industry leaders, policymakers and entrepreneurs, providing opportunities to explore new economic avenues and enhance regional integration. Through this initiative, BIMSTEC nations aim to strengthen ties and drive sustainable growth across the Bay of Bengal region. A proposed amendment to India's transgender law has ignited concern among LGBTQ plus groups who say it threatens to roll back legal protections and undermine the right to self-identity. The LGBTQ plus groups opine this bill it takes away the rights to self-determine one's gender, which was enshrined into the Constitution of India by the Supreme Court in 2014. Critics also warn that the amendment could restrict the recognition of transgender identities and complicate access to government benefits, healthcare and legal documentation. LGBTQ plus organizations have called on lawmakers to reconsider the changes, stressing that the right to self-identify is a cornerstone of equality and human rights in India. The government has not yet provided a detailed response to concerns, and the proposed bill remains under parliamentary review. Brazil's Rio de Janeiro police arrest 8 people for brutally beating a capybara, the world's largest rodent, whose chill demeanor has inspired countless memes online in recent years. In an incident filmed by security cameras before dawn on March 21, a group of attackers beat the capybara with sticks and iron bars in the working-class neighborhood of Ilha do Governador. Veterinarians treating the capybara said they were amazed how it survived despite severe injuries. However, the injured capybara remains under close veterinary supervision as authorities continue their investigation. Authorities have not released further details on charges, but the case has drawn attention to animal cruelty concerns in Brazil. Let's switch to sports now. In the sporting headliner, Yanik Sinner surpassed Novak Djokovic's 10-year record for most consecutive sets won at ATP Masters 1000 events by dismantling Frenchman Corentin Moutet at the Miami Open. Italian world number 2 Sinner, aged 24, recorded his 25th and 26th straight sets at the sport's highest level of tournaments below the Grand Slams in a commanding 71-minute 6-1, 6-4 victory. Sinner had equaled 24-time major champion Djokovic's previous record of 24 straight sets won in beating Damir Zumhur in his opening match. Sinner, a 4-time Grand Slam winner, has triumphed at the past 2 Masters 1000 tournaments, winning at Indian Wells earlier this month and Paris in November without losing a set. The former world number 1 was dominant from the start against Moutet, winning 19 of the first 26 points of the match before taking the first set in 22 minutes. The Football Supporters Association has filed a complaint against FIFA over what it calls excessive and unfair World Cup ticket pricing. The group accuses FIFA of abusing its monopoly with high prices and unclear, opaque ticketing practices. It is urging FIFA to end dynamic prices, freeze ticket prices, and improve transparency by giving advance notice of ticket availability and seating details. Filed with the European Commission alongside Euro consumers, the complaint alleges unfair practices, including bait advertising with limited cheap tickets that are not widely available. While FIFA has introduced some lower-priced tickets, many fans still cannot access them. The FSA says fans are left with no choice but to pay high prices or miss out, and is calling for fairer access and stronger consumer protections. And this brings us to the end of this edition of the news. But before we wrap up, a reminder of the top stories of the hour. Nepali Congress President proposes roadmap for the party's 15th General Convention, sets September date for leadership reset. Local administration declares bird flu affected areas in Jhapa as crisis zones. Infected chickens culled, public urged for precaution. The world marks Tuberculosis Day today. Around 67,000 cases and 16,000 deaths reported annually in Nepal. Colombian military plane crash kills at least 66. Rescue teams search wreckage as investigation continues. White House says plans for possible talks with Iran remain uncertain. Global oil price once again climbed over $100 per barrel. And Yanik Sinner surpasses Djokovic's 10-year record for most consecutive sets won, defeating Corentin Moutet at Miami Open. And that's it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepali time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltvworld.com. I am Shivani Thapa Boston. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening.
President Abraham Lincoln said many years ago, if you think that education is expensive, how much ignorance do you want to finance? Right.
Many of these economists now, they have a tech-based startups. And these tech-based startups, for them to even ideate and progress, you need ideas, you need people who have the experience, as well as resources. I think that's exactly the space where you are an advantage. So I think Nepal should see this as an advantage and then think innovatively. You don't have to follow other country. You find what works for you, but goal is to make sure that is multiplying.
We are forgetting investing for the future. We are just handling the present illness, present poverty, present situation, somehow trying to manage it. But at the same time, that's where the vision comes in. The political or our people or the government, they also have to invest in future. They have to keep an eye on the future.
Our strategy is not producing job seekers, but producing job creators. That's our
fantastic.
motto.
The university is producing job creators, not job seekers. Fantastic.
Music, dance, food, art and devotion are the lifeblood of Newar culture, an ancient civilization rooted in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal. With lively festivals nearly every fortnight, the Newars celebrate life through a rich tapestry of traditions known as Jatra.
Welcome to another episode of the Hinterlands once again. Tonight we travel from the northern highlands to the Tarai plains of the country, exploring the delicate balance between ancient tradition and modern progress. We begin in the high hills of Nepal's Rasua, where archery or arrow festival is more than just a sport. It is a sacred winter gatherings for Himalayan indigenous communities. During different occasions, these highlands transform into a vibrant stage of cultural identity and celebration. Archery festival, symbolizing bravery and skill, is a significant cultural and sporting activity in the Himalayan country, Nepal, often integrated into local festivals and tourism promoting events. Traditional archery festivals are primarily held in the Himalayan and high hilly regions, including Rasua, Manang, Mustang, and Dolpa. It is an integral part of the cultural heritage of several Himalayan indigenous communities, including the Tamang, Thakali, and Gurung. In the northern region of Rasua, people proudly uphold their long-standing archery traditions, especially during the 15-day-long Gyalpo Lochar celebration and other major social gatherings. These events usually take place during the winter season, when agricultural work slows down and communities have time to gather and celebrate. Archery performances held during Gyalpo Lochar, the King's New Year, carry deep spiritual and cultural significance. On this special occasion, both the young people and elders come together with joy and enthusiasm to preserve and celebrate their heritage. Dressed in a traditional attire, community members participate in vibrant singing and dancing, creating a festive and lively atmosphere. One of the highlights of the celebration is the yearly archery competition, which features participants from villages across the region and adds excitement to the festivities. Before making their shots, competitors receive blessings that symbolize good fortune and important hallmark of the tradition. Archers aimed at designated targets, which may represent the symbolic destruction of evil or simply demonstrate skill and precision. The most accurate archer earns great respect within the community. Prizes are awarded to those whose arrows strike the target and travel the greatest distance using traditional bows and arrows. These festivals help preserve ancient skills, honor community heritage, and mark important times of the year. From the high ridges, we move to the hills of Sangza, where locals are working to preserve traditional village names, shaping a renewed sense of identity. The community is now being recognized as a model of progressive preservation. Subik Sarazak takes a closer look here.
With federalism bringing development projects and administrative restructuring, the trend of renaming villages and settlements has grown across Nepal. In many places, contemporary names have overshadowed traditional ones known for generations. However, Ponchamul Majubhanjang village in Adikhola Rural Municipality 1, Sangza has taken a different path. Locals have preserved their traditional village names while using them to establish a new identity. Community members say naming development projects after local settlements has made social activities and administrative work easier, while also strengthening local recognition. Clear identification of settlements helps in project selection and makes social and administrative tasks more effective, said local resident Kim Nanda Sharma.
हाम्रो यो पुरानो नामले चिनिने जुन टोलहरू थिए त्यो टोलको नामाकरण पनि नमेटिने र अनि त्यसपछि विकासको क्रमलाई पनि हामीले चाहिँ यो टोल छुट्याएर राख्दाखेरि विकास गर्नको लागि पनि हेरियो टोलका लागि यति काम गर्न सहज होस् भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ सहज हुन्छ भन्ने लाग्छ मलाई.
Ponchamul is also known as the first homestay village in Nepal, attracting both domestic and international tourists. Locals believe that preserving traditional names alongside homestay tourism helps visitors understand the village's cultural identity while protecting its originality. Adikhola Rural Municipality representative Vishwanath Paudel noted that while renaming trends elsewhere risk erasing heritage, Ponchamul's initiative to safeguard traditional names can serve as a model.
मान्छेले आफ्नो स्वभाव शैली मा परिवर्तन गर्ने कुरा, आफ्ना रीतिरिवाज र संस्कृतिहरूलाई संरक्षण गर्ने कुरा, आदर गर्ने कुराहरू यो सबै
empowerment and self-reliance. The program included constructive dialogues, learning sessions, and reflections on the ongoing prevalence of child marriage across many communities in Nepal. Through group discussions, drama performances, and presentations, young girls powerfully highlighted the negative impacts of child marriage on education, their health, and future opportunities. They showed their strong determination, choosing education and empowerment over following the harmful social culture.
बाल विवाह गर्नु हुँदैन किनकि सानै उमेरमा बिहे गरे भने बच्चा जन्मिदा बच्चाको मानसिक समस्या पनि कमजोर आउन सक्छ. बाल विवाह गर्नु हुँदैन र आफू पनि बाल विवाह नगर्ने र अरूलाई पनि बाल विवाह गर्नु हुँदैन.
Participants not only discussed the challenges but also expressed hope for change, emphasizing that child marriage remains a serious concern. Activists highlighted child marriage is a severe human rights violation that disproportionately affects girls, impacting approximately 1 in 5 girls worldwide. In order to create a lasting positive change and advancing the elimination of child marriage in Nepali society,
खासै गरेर डाटा अनुसार नै 49% चाहिँ बाल विवाह हुने डाटामै देखाएको छ. अझै साँच्चै नै रियालिटीमा वास्तविकतामा हो भने त्यो भन्दा धेरै बढी चाहिँ बाल विवाह हुन्छ. अनि फेरि दाइजो पनि एकदमै धेरै छोरीहरूले पढ्न नपाउने, त्यही भएर एकदम बाल विवाहको अन्त्य नै उच्च शिक्षाको आधार, दाइजो होइन सफल पेशा नै रोज्ने विचार भन्ने नाराका साथ हामीले यो एउटा अभियान चलाएको.
This kind of dialogue is pivotal, experts highlighted during the mass gathering and constructive dialogue in Rautahar district. Nepal successfully completed its House of Representatives elections on March 5th. After 40 days of service, thousands of temporary security personnel were bid farewell. But in eastern Dhankuta, that farewell marks the beginning of new opportunities as provincial and local governments launch specialized training programs to help transition these personnel into long-term employment across multiple sectors. Temporary security personnel hired for the House of Representatives elections on March 5th have completed their 40-day service. They were formally bid farewell through various functions across the country. However, in eastern Nepal's Dhankuta, a different scene unfolded as the local government prepared to provide specialized training in various categories to link them to employment and entrepreneurial opportunities. Skill-based training programs tailored to participants' interest and conducted in collaboration with different agencies have been initiated. The training aims to guide former election security personnel toward self-employment and income-generating opportunities. Out of 149,090 security personnel deployed nationwide, 1,085 served in Dhankuta. Many were uncertain about their next steps after completing the 40-day assignment and feared returning to unemployment in the daily livelihood struggles. The orientation programs held during the farewell, however, have given them hope and confidence, showing that they can pursue opportunities by enrolling in these specialized trainings under local government. Experts and officials from several institutions under provincial and local government, including the CTVT Agriculture Knowledge Center, National Commercial Agriculture Research Center, Division Forest Office, and the Cottage and Small Industries Office, shared information about opportunities in their respective sectors. Chief District Officer of Dhankuta, Binod Kumar Khatka, stated that the program was organized with the objective of supporting better future for those who contributed to the election process. In coordination with banks and financial institutions, participants were also informed about the concessional loans for their startups. The program is expected to encourage them to engage in agriculture, livestock farming, forest-based production, and small industries. While election security personnel in many areas simply return home after the election period ends, Dhankuta has provided them the opportunity to receive training and develop skills. This initiative aims to transform short-term employment into long-term entrepreneurship and sustainable livelihoods. Finally, we head to Tulsipur in Dang, where classrooms are being redefined for visually impaired students. Digital technology is breaking barriers as smart boards enter the classroom or curriculum. By converting lessons into high-quality audio, these tools are opening new doors for higher-grade learners, beginning inclusive education closer to reality. Bijeta Bhandari reports.
The education of visually impaired students at Guru Jajur Higher Secondary School in Rakshachor Tulsipur in Dang of Midwestern Nepal has become significantly easier recently due to digital technology. Students have felt a sense of relief after the school began conducting classes from grade 9 to 12 using smart boards. There are approximately 48 visually impaired students studying from grade 1 to 12 at this school. Although they traditionally rely on Braille textbooks, the introduction of digital teaching methods for higher grades has streamlined the learning process. Sujan Chaudhary, a grade 11 student, says it has become much easier to learn and understand the subject matter through audio.
भइराछ कस्तो भने कथाहरू हुन्छ कविताहरू हुन्छ त्यस्तो बेला म्यामहरुले साथीहरुले बजाइदिएपछि त्यहाँ हामीले यहाँबाट सुन्ने हो स्क्रिन रिडर भएको भए झन् अझ हामीलाई सजिलो हुन्थ्यो
Teachers emphasize that because educational materials, equipment, and assistive technology for visually impaired students are extremely expensive, the government must pay special attention to this sector. Teacher Ram Bahadur Khadka notes that while the shortage of textbooks is not as severe as in previous years, there is still an insufficient supply of necessary materials.
किन्न चाहिँ गाह्रो हुन्छ त्यही भएर सरकारले अब उपलब्ध गराइदियो भने राम्रो हुन्छ अहिले सरकारले अलि किताब त उपलब्ध गराइन्छ तर पनि प्रशस्त अरूले भने जति हुँदैन.
The school has been educating visually impaired students for a long time, addressing various challenges along the way, according to Principal Vishnu Kumari Kesi. She mentions that the school currently employs 3 visually impaired teachers and 1 resource teacher, while also providing hostel facilities and bus services.
हामी लङ टाइमदेखि यहाँ दृष्टिविहीन सञ्चालन भइरहेको हुँदा उनीहरूको प्रब्लम बिस्तारै सल्भ गर्दै आएका छौँ. पहिला चाहिँ यहीँ नजिक होस्टेल थियो, अलि कन्जस्टेड थियो. अहिले चाहिँ हाम्रो राणा गाउँमा रहेको आफ्नै स्कुलको जग्गाको त्यहाँ चाहिँ होस्टेल छ. उनलाई आउन जान गाह्रो परेको थियो, त्यही भएर हामीले त्यो बसको सुविधा त्यहाँ पनि पठाइदिएका छौँ.
While Braille remains the primary foundation for the education of the visually impaired students, digital learning has added a new ray of hope to more than 145,000 people living with visual impairment in Nepal. While the Braille system was introduced in Nepal's academic field more than 60 years ago, its accessibility and quality assistive technology delivery needs much more work. The use of technology in teaching visually impaired students in Dang might serve as an example to the rest in educating students with visual impairments.
Beyond the cities and the headlines, real lives continue to unfold. Stories shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by hope. This is the Hinterlands, and we will be back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. Do follow us on our website www.nepaltvworld.com, our social media handles, and YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye for now.
झाँक्रीहरूले ढ्याङ्ग्रो जति ठटायो उति नै ढुङ्गाबाट पानीको धारा आउने सत्यता देख्दा जो कोही पनि अचम्मित हुन्छन्। यसैगरी लामा ओडार साधारा डुप्चेश्वर महादेवबाट 2 किलोमिटरको दूरीमा पर्दछ। प्राकृतिक छट्टाले सुन्दर मनोरम देखिने यस स्थान लामाहरूको लागि अत्यन्त महत्त्वपूर्ण रहेको छ। पर्यटकीय दृष्टिले त यसको सुन्दरता र महत्त्व बडो गजबको पाइन्छ। गरेका छन्। हलोको चलन अझै पनि देख्न सकिने सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको पहाडको गर्भमा लुकेको अत्यन्त सुन्दर स्थान मध्ये ओख्रेनी एक हो। नेपालका पहाडी कुना कन्दराहरू आफ्नो सुन्दरता यसै गरी लुकाएर बसेका छन्। त्यो सुन्दरता उजागर गर्ने दायित्व तपाईँ हामीको हो। ओख्रेनीबाट 1 घण्टाको उकालो चढेपछि नौलिङ्गेश्वर महादेव पुगिन्छ। जनै पूर्णिमाको दिन यस स्थानमा वर्षेनी भव्य मेला लाग्ने गर्दछ। ग्याल्पो लोसारको दिन यस ठाउँमा शेर्पा समुदायले आफ्नो परम्परा अनुसार नाचगान गर्दछन्। नौलिङ्गेश्वर महादेव छेउमा रहेको प्राकृतिक ढिकी भनेर चिनिने यस स्थान हेर्दा ढुङ्गा खस्न लागेको जस्तो देखिन्छ। हातले पनि हलाउन सकिने यस ढुङ्गा विश्वासै गर्न नसकिने गरी अडिएर बसेको छ। यो प्राकृतिक रूपमा बनेको ढिकीलाई हल्लाएमा मानसिक शान्ति तथा शारीरिक प्रफुल्लता बढ्ने जनविश्वास रहेको छ। हिमालको छेउमा अवस्थित सिन्धुपाल्चोक जिल्लाको उत्तरी भेगमा रहेको अति सुन्दर, आकर्षक, रमणीय र प्राकृतिक सौन्दर्यले भरिभराउ ओख्रेनी गाउँको छानामा रहेको प्राकृतिक ढिकी पर्यटकहरूको पर्खाइमा रहेको।
President Abraham Lincoln said many years ago, if you think that education is expensive, how much ignorance do you want to finance? Right.
Many of these economists now, they have a tech-based startups, and these tech-based startups, for them to even ideate and progress, you need ideas, you need people who have the experience, as well as resources. I think that's exactly the space where you are an advantage. So I think Nepal should see this as an advantage and then think innovatively. You don't have to follow other country. You find what works for you, but goal is to make sure that is multiplying.
We are forgetting investing for the future. We are just handling the present illness, present poverty, present situation, somehow trying to manage it. But at the same time, that's where the vision comes in. The political or our people or the government, they also have to invest in future. They have to keep an eye on the future.
Our strategy is not producing job seekers, but producing job creators. That's our
Fantastic.
motto.
The university is producing job creators, not job seekers. Fantastic.
Transparency International released its Corruption Perceptions Index 2025, and the needle for Nepal has not moved. Nepal's score stands at 34 out of 100 for second year, which does not just represent a data stagnation, it represents a country at a breaking point. From the streets of Kathmandu to the halls of Berlin, the world is watching a global trend where young people are no longer willing to pay the corruption tax on their futures. Today we're joined by Madan Krishna Sharma, the president of Transparency International Nepal, on Insight. Our discussion will be on whether Nepal is stuck in a loop or this stagnant score is the final warning before a total systemic shift. Welcome to Insight.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
For second year in a row, we have scored 34 out of 100. Yeah. Do you think this is a sign of stability or resilience, or are we doing worse?
The score is so low, the country cannot progress and sustain at this level of a score. So it is already a warning signal, and continuing with the warning signal is not a good thing. Mm-hmm. So it is a sign that that there has been no improvement, whereas our economy is somehow expanding. At least our foreign debts and local debts, total debts, public debt is increasing. Our budget size is increasing, but our governance to control the corruption and make best use of that budget and resources, that is not improving. So that means we are draining down more and more money every year. So it is not a good sign, and there is nothing to be satisfied or taking rest. Rather, it is a great and grave concern for the country.
Mm-hmm. In September, we witnessed a massive movement that acted like a catalyst to a huge political transformation. Do you think our younger generation has lost faith in governance?
The outburst of the Gen Z or the youths of Nepal is a quite, actually it was somehow expected. The Transparency International and we locally used to say before, in couple of years before, I have also spoken very openly on this in the past, that the youth who are more than 40% of the total population of Nepal, mm-hmm. are the most affected group mm-hmm. of the people in Nepal, because their aspirations have been curtailed. There is their opportunity for them to thrive in Nepal, to fulfill their aspirations in Nepal has not been prepared and developed by those in the government. So they have to look out, go out of the country and bear the pain of being a foreigner and third grade citizen in other countries. So it is the youth who are affected most actually, because they have to build their careers, they have to make their life fully successful and all that. So the opportunities are so much limited here, and it is control, all that, and general youth do not get the type of opportunity to fulfill their aspirations. So that is why it was outburst.
I think you really touched upon the theme of human exodus that we are witnessing right now. If we draw a line between CPI score of 34 and the migration data of Nepal, do you think corruption now is the primary push factor driving Nepal's youth exodus?
We have to understand it in a very broader sense, that one can say always that, or argue always, a migration or moving from one place to another is a human behavior and nature. So there will be migration everywhere, even from the developed countries there will be migration to somewhere, but the volume, the type, the generation, the youth who are the most productive population of the country in terms of the capacity, brain, as well as in terms of the physical capacity, both of them are migrating and in a large number, unimaginably large number. And we are surviving, currently our economy is surviving because our economy is import based and trading based economy. We import using the foreign currency remitted by those migrant workers. So this level of migration is surely the output or the cause of this corruption, high level of corruption that has deprived our youth population for the type of opportunity they seek in our own country.
We have interim government that's leading the country to election. It's been led by former Chief Justice, who is known for integrity. Do you think her leadership could have had some reflection in the CPI outlook of the country?
You know, CPI is calculated by Transparency International headquarters in Berlin, gathering data from various research agencies. For Nepal, there are international 6 research agencies that the Transparency International relies on to calculate this score. And those agencies do the research country-wise at different periods. Normally it is 25, but up to 24 or even some part of the 25 is covered. And after this September, as you mentioned, we had this change in the regime and the interim government in place. I don't think Transparency International or any research agencies that those data are incorporated here, they have taken any sort of a result post this Gen Z revolution or what we call it. So it is not that much reflected in data, but in the narrative reports it is well captured. Now therefore this 34 does not account for anything done by this interim government. So let's hope that not this government, after the elected government, they should do something.
Do you think Nepal's corruption today is a failure of laws? Do you think we need more regulations, or is it a failure of culture perhaps?
One can always say that the laws or policies are not a living thing. They have to be always amended and updated according to the need of the market and the development of the market. But whatever law we have, The problem is those laws are not properly interpreted and not properly implemented. The law implementation is so weak here, because that is also reported by the Transparency International, and we have been experiencing that. Because of a sort of a state capture had happened in the past, the coalition parties in the government, they used to safeguard each other against any wrongdoing or against any action under the law. So there was a sort of a virtual situation in Nepal, though there were law, but was it fully implemented? No. Was it sincerely implemented across all the citizens? No. There were some impunity, political impunity. There were some lack of rule of law in certain areas. So because of that, what we think is that laws, whatever are there, even if they are sincerely implemented at all levels, it will definitely help curb the corruption to some level. But it was not done that way. So now going back to the culture, is it a culture, Nepalese culture of, one can say, since it is so rampant and we have been voting again and again the same corrupt politicians, and here in Nepal, very interestingly, when one person is charged and taken to the court or taken to the prison, and when that person is released, we celebrate. And whereas in other countries, it rarely happens. Here in Nepal, that type of culture is there. So, but saying culture, we should not generalize that not all Nepalese population as such are corrupt. Only those who are in the power, especially political power, and that also political power in the government, there is somehow different type of corruption is there. So it is a culture of the political sort of a power holders. We can interpret that way. It has been so, because without corruption, there will not be enough money to defend themselves or to win another election. So because of that, the corruption has been a sort of a culture of the politics now. We can always say that corruption somehow has become a culture of the politicians' politics. But we should not, it will be very harmful, and it will be unjust or injustice to the general public to say that corruption is a Nepalese culture. It is not. I don't agree to that.
Okay. Thank you. We're heading for March 5 elections. There are about over 3,400 candidates, and they are in full swing with their campaigning. Do you think we are witnessing an investment phase for corruption after the election?
Yeah, you used a very very professional terminology here, investment phase for the corrupt politicians. We should say, not the politicians, it's for corrupt politicians, because investments always is attached to the return. So why one would invest? Because they will get it back afterwards. And how a politician gets the money he or she has invested in the election or any political activity? It is purely by the corruption, no other way out. So, transparency of the political income and expenditure has been emphasized a lot nowadays. If we really want to curb the corruption, there must be full transparency of every single rupees of income and expenditure by the political parties or political persons, or any person is in the election. So, but in Nepal, we heard that there is a ceiling set by the Election Commission for the candidates at different geographical locations, different amount. I think it is around 30 lakhs or something somewhere. It is some other amount, but nothing more than 50 lakhs or nothing more than 30 or 35 lakhs. No one believes in Nepal and agrees to it that that much level of money would only be spent during this election for a candidate. We can't say by, because for is a more better term here, because others will be spending for them. So unless and until there is a practically implementable rules and regulations, and in terms of the election expenditure or political expenditure, and their mandatory requirements of disclosure, that is also nowadays, we are gone already in the 21st century, and we are in the technological advancement era of AI and everything there. So it should be online. Politicians and political parties should disclose their income and expenditure. Only then this investment matter would be controlled, and its effect on corruption would be there, and corruption would be reduced. So of course this is it is not there in Nepal currently, so we doubt that our election commission would be able to fully control it. So there would be expenditure. There is a risk of sort of a vote buying. There is be risk of influence by the financier to the politicians, which will invest for the politics now, and they will get the benefits after these politicians are elected and are in the government. So this is a phase, you are rightly said, but what to do then? General public now should be very much watchful. See how the government runs and how the election is happening now, who is spending what, and every single citizen has a right to ask for the source of that expenditure or income. So I think general public needs to be very much watchful nowadays. In Nepal, we listen to so many things, we read so many things. There are certain power groups who capture the policies, politics, and even the government, not only government, other organs of the state as well. So the new party or new government, whoever comes, should sincerely follow the integrity in the politics.
I'd like to move slightly from mainstream politics and to climate funds. Nepal is one of the most impacted countries, most vulnerable to climate change, and receives a certain amount of global aid to tackle climate change impacts. How much of that aid do you think is at risk of being siphoned off, and are we effectively treating the climate crisis as a corruption opportunity?
Thank you for putting this question up, because Transparency International Nepal has completed a project assessing that the usage of the climate fund by Nepal government, those funds as you mentioned coming from abroad, the situation is actually very discouraging, because this foreign funding demands a time-bound implementation, and in implementation we are so weak. There would be risk of siphoning or misuse of that fund if that fund started getting used. But here the problem is, what our research found is, we have a separate report, if you want we can share that later on, but what we saw in that report is that most of the large projects committed by the foreign donors have not been implemented in time, and there is a high risk of that money not being further committed. So that is one risk. Why that happened is because of two things. One thing is, the foreign aid comes with counterpart funding. That means the country also needs to put some money. So there is a huge gap in the counterpart funding. So the project is not moving ahead. Second is the management capacity. See, the management capacity of our government system has been eroded like anything because of the corruption. So because of this situation, this climate funding utilization in Nepal has been very, very minimal. It's almost a sort of unaccountable. So that level of minimal climate fund is being used, which is a great loss to the country, because that money was a free money, which could have been best used to protect our environment, to protect our natural resources and natural assets.
Bhutan consistently ranks in the global top 20. This time it scored 71, I believe. They share our geography and also culture. Why is Bhutan succeeding where Nepal is failing?
Yeah, there could be so many things there, but apparently it looks like, again, because what we have in Nepal is we have not seen anything done by the politics to imbibe integrity and corruption-free environment in the country. So at this moment we can trace back to the politics that this is the main source of corruption here in Nepal. Now in Bhutan, there to stand for an election by a person for a parliament, that person has to have a minimum qualification of bachelor's degree and certain years of experience in the governance. Only that person can file the nomination. That is the differentiation. So tomorrow that person would have some capacity to run the government. But here in our case, in the name of citizens' right and human rights, to become a secretary of the ministry, we need certain qualification, but the minister doesn't need any qualification. The vote is the qualification. So this thing has to be looked into. For example, this is the right time that the election campaign is going on, and the ensuing election. Whatever they are saying now, they should stick to the same thing when they go into the power. Can we expect this now at this stage unless they prove? No.
Walk the talk.
Yes.
Before we let you go, how do you think 2026 outlook will be like for Nepal, considering everything is changing and hopefully after March 5, things will be progressive?
I think let's hope and pray for that, because as I said, if our politics and then the formation of the government is based on the ideology and based on the principle, then things will start coming in the right track. But again, if it starts going according to the numerics and doing whatever they like, then the situation will not improve. This is what I feel personally.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Well, countries like Bhutan prove that geography isn't the problem, governance is. While they rise, a stagnant 34 confirms Nepal is still trapped in policy capture and political auctions. We are exporting our youth because we refuse to clean up the present. To finally move the needle, the onus is on all of us, especially the leadership, to stop selling the state. Thank you for staying with us on Insight. Until next time.
President Abraham Lincoln said many years ago, if you think that education is expensive, how much ignorance do you want to finance? Right.
Many of these economists now, they have a tech-based startups. And these tech-based startups, for them to even ideate and progress, you need ideas, you need people who have the experience as well as resources. I think that's exactly the space where you are an advantage. So I think Nepal should see this as an advantage and then think innovatively. You don't have to follow other country. You find what works for you, but goal is to make sure that is multiplying.
We are forgetting investing for the future. We are just handling the present illness, present poverty, present situation, somehow trying to manage it. But at the same time, that's where the vision comes in. The political or our people or the government, they also have to invest in future. They have to keep an eye on the future.
Our strategy is not producing job seekers, but producing job creators. That's our
Fantastic.
motto.
The university is producing job creators, not job seekers. Fantastic.
How many countries can you recognize by just looking at their flags? 20, 40, maybe 60. Today I'm joined by a young prodigy from Kathmandu, Nepal, who has far surpassed those numbers. At just 10 years old, Kripal Paudel secured his place in the World Book of Records by successfully identifying and reciting the flags of every country in the world in just 1 minute and 40 seconds. This historic feat was officially recorded on July 10, 2024. Kripo, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Are you excited for the interview?
Yes, I'm already excited for this interview.
We'll show you random 40 flags and you have to name them as fast as possible.
Canada, Morocco, Russia, Malaysia, Thailand, Ethiopia, Guatemala, Belgium, Dominican Republic, Switzerland, Lithuania, Iceland, Italy, Spain, Ecuador, Montenegro, Cuba, Rwanda, South Korea, Haiti, Chile, Bolivia, Luxembourg, Honduras, Venezuela, Bangladesh, Portugal, Estonia, Kenya, Vietnam, Belarus, Greece, Nicaragua, Uruguay, Colombia, Finland, Zimbabwe, Peru, Tunisia, Ireland, Netherlands, Kosovo.
So, Kripa, how do you memorize them when you see a flag? Do you see a picture or do you see the name of the country instantly in your head?
First of all, it's interest of any people. Like I have an interest in geography. I read geography books and I know the flags of these countries so well.
When did you first realize you had this superpower? And was it just a hobby or you had to memorize for school exams?
No, it was not to memorize for school exams. It was my hobby and I have recognized it like for last 3 years, 4 years like that.
So walk us through your world record journey.
So it was amazing and wonderful. And throughout the journey, we introduced a form in the Worldwide Book of Records. And as the journey continues, we attended this record in my school, and we got that certificate and all that medals, etc.
How does it feel to represent Nepal on the global stage of the World Book of Records?
It was very proud to recognize my country, my motherland, Nepal, to recognize on the world's global. Yeah, it is so It means that Nepalese peoples are also educated.
Now tell us more about yourself. Is it just flags, or are you this fast with maths, history, dates, or any other subjects?
Yeah, all subjects I got full marks in practical also, theory also, and all subjects I'm very good at, excellent at. But it's all about creativity of an normal people. Every people has an interest, and if they follow their interest, they will become success in the world.
Do you consider your talent as normal?
Yeah, it's normal for me. I don't know how other people will think about it.
Who is your biggest cheerleader?
My parents are my biggest cheerleaders. They support me in every way. They support me in every situation, and I'm very thankful to have parents like them.
Let's talk beyond your world record.
Yes.
Who is Cripple Powder and what are your interests?
So, Cripple Powder is basically a normal person. My hobbies are to study about geography, to study about politics, to study about news, climates, and beyond that studies, I also have interest in sports and other categories.
Okay, now let's talk about your future. You've already bagged the world record now. What's next?
After an attempt in Guinness Book of World Records, and I'm doing 3D animation in Blender, 2D animation in After Effects, Adobe Premiere Pro, and Illustrator also. And also, it's been great to do this.
You're interested in technology as well?
Yes. I didn't have a decision to become what in future.
Oh, you've not decided yet?
Yes. I'm so small too.
So when you think about you being an adult, what comes to your mind? What profession suits you?
I have been doing the 3D animation in the past 1 year, and I'm doing a great job in 3D animation. So my interest is 3D animation also.
So outside of flags and studying, what is Cripple's favorite thing to do?
I want to socialize with my parents, and I want to travel also. I want to travel the world's countries.
Now, here's a fun segment. I'll ask you a question. You need to answer in one word, or you can just answer it in one sentence. Are you ready?
Yes.
The first question is, which one do you think is the coolest looking or has the best color or shape?
I'm not disrespecting every flags. They are all beautiful in their people's angles. But as being a Nepali flags is a different one from all the world's flag.
Which one was the hardest to memorize?
So probably the longer words flag, it can be anything like Kyrgyzstan and maybe Uzbekistan. I saw many flags like Monaco and Indonesia. They are same. Indonesia and Poland are also same. Ireland and Cote d'Ivoire, they are also similar.
Is there a country you want to visit just because its flag is cool?
The coolest one I want to go to is Switzerland, maybe.
Switzerland, just because its flag is beautiful?
Yes.
Are you interested in just countries or the cities as well?
As learning geography, cities are also important to learn, and I'm learning about cities as well as the states as well.
Do you ever see flags in your dreams?
I haven't seen a flag in my dream.
Now we've come to the end of the show. Do you have anything that you want to share with your audience?
I'm very grateful to my parents and thankful to my parents. And also I learned 3D animation in Pixel Media, which is a company that provides you to how to learn about 3D animation, 2D animation. And I want to thank to all the members of the NTV World to giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you interested to know about Nepal and its major tourist destinations? Do you want to see some of the best destinations in Nepal? Are you the one who enjoys nature, culture and adventure? If yes is the answer, then come with us. We are introducing you to the tourism heaven of Nepal, the Gandaki province, and the exotic destinations. Gandaki province, the tourism capital of Nepal. Gandaki province is very rich with natural diversity and tourism potential. Pokhara is undoubtedly #1 destination for tourists in Nepal. The valley, blessed with natural beauty, attracts domestic and foreign tourists alike. You must have already visited Pokhara. If you haven't or planning another trip, then these are some of the must-go places in Pokhara. The first attraction in Pokhara is the FIFA Lake. Boating in FIFA Lake is a ritual for every tourist visiting this paradise. The Tal Barahi temple at the center of the lake adds to the beauty of the place. A round-trip boat ride in FIFA Lake to and from the temple is a feature of both the lake as well as the temple. Separate boat ride, watching the reflection of Mount Machapuchre on the lake and fishing spice up the FIFA experience. The lakeside along the banks of the FIFA Lake is a popular tourist hub. Many tourists in Pokhara choose Devi's Fall as their second destination in Pokhara. The water from FIFA Lake exits towards Seti River through the Gupteshwar cave from this Devi's Fall. The mighty water stream rushing deep down into the gorge, covered by water vapor, is a magical sight. Pokhara is known as the city of lakes and caves. Many of the lakes and caves have religious importance. This is Gupteshwar cave at Chorepatan area. Inside the cave, the idol of Lord Shiva is a well-known pilgrimage. Further inside the cave, one can see the Devi's Fall. Mahendra cave is another famous place in Pokhara, and nearby is another well-known Chamere cave. Both the caves can be visited together. Two other well-known tourist destinations in Pokhara are Begnas and Rupa lakes. Fresh fish of Begnas lake is a sought-after delicacy. Rupa lake is just round the corner beyond a small hill towards the eastern edge of Begnas lake. Away from the hustle and bustle of the town, Begnas and Rupa lakes cannot be taken out of a tourist's itinerary. This is the famous White Monastery on top of the hill above FIFA Lake. This is also a popular destination for domestic as well as foreign tourists. the top-angle bird's-eye view of Pokhara city from the monastery is a sight to behold. The placid Pheva Lake, the tall mountain range, and the birds like paragliding pilots on the background of Sarankot Hill are mesmerizing. The Bindabasini temple in Pokhara is a famous shrine in Nepal. The best route to visit the temple is on the way to Sarankot. Devotees throng the Bindabasini temple, which is atop a small hill with panoramic view of Pokhara city. The Bindabasini temple is famous among the Hindus across the country. Sarankot is a hill station on top of a hill on the northwestern side of Pokhara. A must-go place to see the majestic Mount Machapuchre and Mount Dhaulagiri in the Annapurna range in front of the eyes, and also the Pokhara and Leknath cities on the other side. Sarankot is synonymous to paragliding in Nepal. Taking off from the Sarankot hill, one can enjoy the panoramic mountain range in addition to the bird's eye view of Pokhara city. Ultralight and zip flyer offer a thrill to adventure seekers in Pokhara and are becoming major interests for tourists. Other places, including Swarak in Sangja, have the potential to be world's best place for paragliding. First time in Nepal, Paragliding Accuracy World Cup was held at this place, situated at Mahapur of Virkot municipality of the district. The place drew global attention after the event. Pokhara, famous tourism destination of the country. Majority of locals engaged in tourism industry. The city of lakes and caves, hub of aviation sports. Some major destinations: Lakeside, Pheva Lake and Tal Barahi Temple, Begnas and Rupa Lakes, Mahendra Gufa. Annapurna Circuit Trek features in world's 10 best destinations and adventures. The trekking circuit is the choice of many trekkers as it offers both adventure along with mesmerizing view of mountain ranges. Arguably the best trekking circuit in the world, travelers get up close with dozens of mountains including the Annapurna, Dhaulagiri, Nilgiri. Annapurna circuit ideally is a 14-day trek. The circuit passes through Lamjung, Manang, Mustang and Myagdi district, including Thorangla Pass as the highest point. Places including Thampus, Ghandruk and Poon Hill are part of this trekking circuit. The revered Muktinath shrine is also part of the circuit. Only foreigners were seen in this circuit few years back, but now domestic tourists are also flocking the area. If you are looking for a lifetime trekking experience, then pack your bags for Annapurna trekking circuit. Mardi Base Camp Trek, also part of the Annapurna circuit, is another alternative route for trekkers who can't afford time. Trekkers can be up close with mountains including the Annapurna range, Dhaulagiri, Machapuchre and Manasalu in this circuit. This 7-day circuit is attracting many trekkers for obvious reasons. Another famous trekking route in Gandaki province is Manasalu circuit. This circuit, not as popular as Annapurna, is seen as the alternative, as increasing road access in the Annapurna circuit is spoiling its charm. Not just for adventure and natural beauty, Gandaki province is also popular for religious tourism. Dozens of temples in this province draw devotees in numbers. Hundreds of thousands of religious tourists visit this province every year. These sites are important for domestic tourism. Muktinath is an important religious site for Hindus as well as Buddhists. The Muktinath temple is situated 3,710 meters above the sea level in the mountainous district of Mustang. For Hindus, this area is Mukti Kshetra, and Buddhists call it Chuming Gyatsa in Tibetan language. The religious site is famous for Saligram, revered as the manifestation of Lord Vishnu. As per Hindu belief, one who reaches this area will attain salvation. The Manakamana temple at Gorkha district is another very famous shrine for deity Manakamana. Literally means the deity who fulfills one's wishes. Situated some 1300 meters above the sea level, we can see Mahavarat hill range and Shimkeswari peak towards the south, and Mount Annapurna and Mount Manasalu among others towards the north. Beautiful sunrise and sunset is visible from the temple premises. Famously known as the Haridwar of Nepal, Triveni Dham is a historical and archaeological religious site for Hindus. The confluence of Narayani, Tamasa and Sonbhadra rivers is called Triveni Dham. 2 annual fairs draw thousands of devotees from home and abroad, mainly India, in this area. Hindus believe offering prayers and holy water from the river relieves one of sins. The mountainous district of Mustang features in world's top 10 tourist destinations. The natural splendor of Mustang, known as the land beyond the Himalayas, is simply striking. Domestic tourists, along with tourists from SAARC countries and others, arrive here every year. Jomsom Bazar, Kagbeni and Lomangthang are some of the places we can see in Mustang. Manang is known for Tilichu, the lake at the highest altitude in the world. Foreign tourists who arrive here are spellbound by the tall peaks, the suspension bridge at the 5th highest place in the world, and of course, the highest in South Asia, apple farms, and the warmth of the Manangi people. Dhorpatan Hunting Reserve is the only hunting reserve in Nepal. Established in 1987, it covers an area of 1325 square kilometers in the Dhaulagiri of western Nepal, spreading across Rukum, Magdi and Baglung districts. For those interested in gaming or hunting, this is the only destination. This area is the entry point of the Gorilla Trail, a day-long bus ride from Kathmandu to Burtibang or Baglung, and a day's walk from there to Dhorpatan. Gandaki province is also the capital of homestay. The most famous and popular homestays are in this province. Nepal's first ever homestay, Sirubari homestay, is also in this province. Tourists flock this homestay in Sanja to experience the local culture and lifestyle. Homestay is a new concept for foreign tourists and a new alternative for domestic travelers. The Ghalegaon in Lamjung is also famous for its homestay. Ghalegaon is an ancient, almost 700 years old civilization and also called the model village of Sar. The main source of income for Ghalegaon dwellers is tourism. Lamjung district has the most number of homestays in Gandaki province. Kaulepani, Purankot and Bhujung homestays are some of the other well-known destinations in Lamjung. Homestays are popular because they not only provide accommodation and food at an affordable cost, but also give an opportunity to experience the rural life and culture. The Gorkha Palace is a historic monument in Gorkha district. This is where then King Prithvinarayan Saha, who conquered small kingdoms and unified into larger Nepal, was born. Not a faraway destination from Kathmandu, and also a subject of research and study for many. Some of the other attractions: Gorkha Palace Museum, Gorakhali Temple, Cave, Liglikot, Panoramic Mountain View, Barpak, the 2015 earthquake epicenter. Gandaki province is leading in tourism industry and an example how rural tourism can be a source of income. Bandipur is one such place where domestic as well as foreign tourists are seen round the calendar. Panchase is another such beautiful place along the border of Kaski, Sanja and Parvat districts. Panchase is known for its biodiversity and a model for rural tourism. Tourists who want to experience rural life in Nepal choose this place. Gandaki province offers something for tourists of all interests. From a day to a month, you can spend your trip as per your interest in destinations of your choice. Availability of air service and road connection to almost all destinations makes it much easier for travelers to choose this province before others. Adequate hotels and homestays, restaurants and eateries are ready to cater to travelers of varying need and interest. Votekosi and Trisuli river rafting. Rafting has lately been gaining popularity among tourists. The adventure sport, which previously was popular only among foreigners, is now drawing the local tourists as well. Trisuli and Votekosi rivers that are close to Kathmandu are two popular destinations for rafting in Bagmati province. Let us first explore Votekosi. Whitewater rafting at Votekosi river is included among the 10 best adventure destinations for rafting in the world. Votekosi, which is well facilitated with food and accommodation, can be a great destination for rafting and other adventure sports. Rafting at Trisuli river is popular among domestic tourists, as the location can be reached in an hour from Kathmandu. This is where most tourists go for rafting in Nepal. Rafting packages of Votekosi and Trisuli are appropriate for those who want to spend some good time for a few days.
President Abraham Lincoln said many years ago, if you think that education is expensive, how much ignorance do you want to finance? Right.
Many of these economists now, they have a tech-based startups. And these tech-based startups, for them to even ideate and progress, you need ideas, you need people who have the experience as well as resources. I think that's exactly the space where you are an advantage. So I think Nepal should see this as an advantage and then think innovatively. You don't have to follow other country. You find what works for you, but goal is to make sure that is multiplying.
We are forgetting investing for the future. We are just handling the present illness, present poverty, present situation, somehow trying to manage it. But at the same time, that's where the vision comes in. The political or our people or the government, they also have to invest in future. They have to keep an eye on the future.
Our strategy is not producing job seekers, but producing job creators. That's our
Fantastic.
motto.
The university is producing job creators, not job seekers. Fantastic.
Sharp disagreements have emerged over whether Washington and Tehran engaged in negotiations or not amid ongoing Middle East crisis. On Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump said he had ordered a 5-day delay of planned strikes on Iranian power plants and energy facilities, citing very good and productive conversations over the past 2 days aimed at easing tensions in the Middle East. Iran, however, denied holding talks. Iranian Foreign Ministry's spokesperson Ismail Baghai said that while friendly countries had sent messages indicating U.S. interest in negotiations, Iran had not responded, and its stance on the Strait of Hormuz and conditions to end the war remains unchanged. The announcement came amid heightened regional tensions following joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iranian targets starting February 28, which prompted retaliatory attacks on Israeli and U.S. interests across the Middle East. Meanwhile, China has called for an immediate ceasefire, stressing relevant parties should immediately stop the hostility and return to the peaceful dialogue as soon as possible.
战事延宕，不符合任何一方利益，停火止战，停火对话是唯一的出路。中方对当前的局势不断升级外溢，冲击地区和国际和平稳定深感担忧，呼吁相关各方立即停火止战，尽快回到和平对话的轨道上来。
Qatar has also expressed support for diplomatic efforts to end the conflict. It says the ongoing Middle East war has stressed the Gulf states' security system beyond its breaking point as Iran presses its campaign against the neighboring countries.
لكني أؤكد هنا أنه ليس هناك حاليا أي جهد قطري مباشر فيما يتعلق بوساطة بين الطرفين. تركيزنا حاليا ينصب بشكل كامل على الدفاع عن بلدنا والتعامل مع الخسائر الناتجة عن الهجمات المختلفة التي تعرضت لها دولة قطر، ولكن التواصل كما رأيتم من خلال ما قرأته قبل قليل الاتصالات مع الدول الأخرى سواء على مستوى المنطقة أو دوليا، اللقاءات متعددة الأطراف التي تمت خلال الفترة الماضية.
The situation remains volatile as global attention focuses on the potential for renewed strikes, ongoing regional instability, and the wider impact on international energy markets. Meanwhile, Iranian missiles have created impacts in several areas of Tel Aviv in Israel, causing major building damages and at least 4 casualties. Australia and the European Union have agreed a sweeping free trade deal after 8 years of negotiations. The deal, worth about $10 billion Australian dollars, was signed with Australia's Prime Minister and the head of the European Commission, describing it as a mutual win-win. As well as removing almost all tariffs on trade, the two have also agreed to increase cooperation on defense and critical minerals. European Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen described the deals as having a focus on collective resilience in a world that is deeply changing.
Europe, a continent of 27 member states and 450 million people, is changed. And we're not just open for businesses. We are here to begin a new epoch in our relationship rooted in the spirit of friendship. And after our societies had already withstood so much, first with the financial crisis, then the pandemic, then the beginning of the war in Ukraine, and now a second energy, gas, and oil price shock, diversification was and remains a necessity. And this is why I am proud that we have made decarbonization a defining pillar of our free trade agreement.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said what they have signed would unleash a new era of economic and security partnership.
The Australia-European Free Trade Agreement will be a once-in-a-generation achievement that will create jobs and prosperity for generations to come.
Under the deal, almost all EU tariffs will be lifted on Australian agricultural products such as wine, fruit and vegetables, olive oil, seafood, dairy products, and wheat and barley. For Australian consumers, the deal means cheaper European wine, spirits, biscuits, and chocolates. A Thai court has ordered a mining company to compensate villagers for health and environmental damages linked to its operations in central Thailand, awarding up to $61,000 per person. The case stems from long-running complaints against Akara Mining's gold mine in Pichit province, where residents have alleged contamination of local water sources, soil pollution, and adverse health effects, including skin and respiratory problems. Communities in the area have raised concerns over the environmental impacts of mining for more than a decade, citing persistent water discoloration and unexplained illnesses. The civil court ruled that Akara Mining must pay affected villagers over a 10-year period to address the documented consequences of its operations. The compensation is intended to cover both health-related damages and losses stemming from environmental degradation. Legal experts say the ruling sets a significant precedent in Thailand, signaling increased accountability for industrial companies whose operations threaten public health and local ecosystems. The decision is also expected to bolster community advocacy efforts, as residents in other provinces have filed similar complaints against mining and industrial projects.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un attended an artistic performance in Pyongyang, state media reported, in a show marking the outcome of the first session of the 15th Supreme People's Assembly. During the parliamentary session, the rubber-stamp legislature formally re-elected Kim as President of State Affairs, reinforcing his control over the country's government, military and security institutions. The event underlines the tightly managed political processes that characterize North Korea's leadership structure. The performance, broadcast by KCTV, featured patriotic and revolutionary themes, a traditional form of celebration used by the regime to showcase national loyalty and support for its leader. Attendees including high-ranking officials and party members, according to state media reports. State media described the show as a celebration of national unity and leadership, emphasizing Kim's ongoing prominence in North Korea's political and cultural life. Once the grand residences of Mughal-era nobility, the Indian capital's palace-like homes, locally known as Havelis, now stand at a fragile crossroads. A handful lovingly restored, but many more sliding quietly into ruin. Across Old Delhi, cracked facades, shattered gateways and sagging balconies tell the story of a heritage under siege. These palace-like structures with the intricately carved doors, choroka balconies and sprawling courtyards were once symbols of wealth, power and artistry, reflecting centuries of Delhi's rich cultural and architectural history. Today, however, the story is one of decay and neglect. For families like the Mathurs, preserving a Haveli is a labor of love. Ashok Mathur, 56, has lived in Mathur Ki Haveli for 5 generations.
So this house is touching about 130 plus years now, and you see that we haven't touched much of the architecture. We haven't disturbed much of the architecture except for the repairs that we keep doing it for maintaining it. And it's been a house for about 5 generations now for us.
While a few Havelis have been lovingly restored, the majority are succumbing to time, urban sprawl and complex ownership disputes that stall preservation efforts. Conservationist K.T. Ravindran says that many such Havelis suffer from unclear titles and multiple claimants.
It is in a condition of deterioration. That certainly is so, because not much investment has gone into the old city. All the investment is hogged by the new part of the city. Most Indian cities have this dichotomous condition of an old city and a new city. So all the investment, the new capital that flows into the city goes to the new part of the city, and the old part stays neglected.
It is also warned that without targeted restoration programs, legal clarity for ownership and public awareness, many Havelis could vanish, taking with them a tangible link to India's rich past.
Well, the selective restoration is actually becomes like a catalyst in the process of change, because people see that, if this can be improved, why not my place? So they start thinking in terms of improvement, and that can actually kind of snowball into a larger movement,
Beyond the legal and financial hurdles, the physical upkeep of Havelis is itself a challenge. Residents who continue to live in these homes often must balance modern living needs with preservation, repairing roofs, replacing beams, and maintaining decorative details, all while keeping the spirit of the original architecture intact. The Orangery Museum in the French capital is showcasing a major retrospective of French painter Henri Rousseau, featuring works from an unprecedented transatlantic partnership with the Barnes Foundation. The exhibition, titled Henri Rousseau, The Ambition of Painting, opens to the public on Wednesday and brings together the largest collections of the artist's works. The Barnes Foundation, which owns 18 Rousseau paintings, and the Orangery, which holds 11, coordinated to make the display possible after the U.S. Museum was authorized to lend its pieces internationally. Organizers describe the exhibition as a comprehensive look at Rousseau's career, highlighting his unique approach to post-impressionist painting and his influence on the 20th century art. The collaboration marks a rare international loan of major works, providing visitors in Paris an opportunity to see a breadth of Rousseau's oeuvre that has never been presented together outside of the United States.
The population of endangered Hatay mountain gazelle has reached 1,562 in Turkey in the 2025 inventory count, reflecting steady growth thanks to ongoing conservation efforts. Noted for its large eyes and graceful physique, the species has long held cultural significance, featuring in poems, folk songs, and artistic works across the region. Its global population is estimated at around 3,000, with habitats spanning across Turkey, Jordan, and Palestine, where they maintain their natural habitat. In Turkey, the species population has shown remarkable growth, rising from 235 in the 2013 inventory to 1,562 in 2025, underscoring the impact of focused protection programs and habitat management. Conservationists continue to monitor the gazelles, emphasizing the importance of sustained efforts to secure the survival of this culturally and ecologically significant species. Pop superstar Shakira will conclude her record-breaking All Tour with a 6-night residency in Madrid, according to her Spanish promoter Live Nation. The residency is set to run September 18 to 20 and September 25 to 27 at a custom-built venue, will highlight Latin culture and serve as a celebration of life. Ticket demand may prompt additional dates, Live Nation added, underscoring Shakira's sustained popularity following a global tour that broke records across multiple continents. The Madrid show marks the final leg of a tour that has combined high-energy performances with elaborate stage production, drawing fans worldwide and reinforcing Shakira's position as one of Latin music's leading international stars. Hundreds of Pashtun Pakistanis took part in traditional games in the mountainous regions of Balochistan province over the weekend, attracting spectators from across the region despite years-long insurgency and separatist conflicts. The festival featured a variety of culturally significant competitions, including chicken catching, tug-of-war, and running races. Organizers said the events are designed to celebrate Pashtun heritage, provide recreational opportunities, and bring communities together in an area often affected by unrest and political instability. Local residents emphasized the importance of such cultural gatherings in fostering social cohesion. Officials and community leaders also said events like these are vital for preserving local traditions and instilling a sense of normalcy among residents, particularly youth who have grown up in an environment marked by violence and uncertainty. The games drew crowds of families, elders, and young people, with spectators cheering from hillside vantage points. Organizers stressed that maintaining such cultural festival is essential not only for heritage preservation but also for community morale and resilience in the face of ongoing security challenges.
As cherry blossom season reaches its peak, both locals and tourists are flocking to parks and gardens across Tokyo to witness the city's iconic floral displays. This year, the blooms have appeared 5 days earlier than the seasonal average, a shift attributed to warmer than usual temperatures since mid-February, according to officials at the Japan Meteorological Agency. It is said the early flowering may also affect the timing of festivals and related cultural events across the city. Authorities say popular viewing spots are experiencing higher visitor numbers than normal, raising concerns about crowd management and public safety in the capital's busiest parks. The Met agency officials has said the early bloom is a visible sign of changing weather patterns, adding it is monitoring conditions closely. Officials are also urging visitors to follow safety guidelines while enjoying the blossoms. The cherry blossom, or sakura, remains a key cultural symbol in Japan, attracting thousands each year for traditional hanami picnics and seasonal celebrations. A traditional sport dating back to pre-Colombian times is gaining renewed attention in southeastern Mexico as practitioners work to preserve and modernize the ancient Maya ball game. Teams of 4 players wearing protective cloth around the pelvis compete to control a heavy rubber ball on course carved into the ground, symbolizing the Maya underworld. The game, once central to ritual and social life in ancient Maya civilization, is now being reintroduced through organized matches and cultural initiatives across the region. The revival effort has expanded participation beyond its historical roots, with women increasingly joining teams and international exhibitions, bringing the sport to wider audiences. Organizers say these changes are part of a broader push to ensure the game's survival in a contemporary context. Despite growing interest, players and advocates say the sport lacks formal recognition and funding from Mexican sports authorities. They are calling for institutional support, including investment in training facilities and inclusion in official cultural and athletic programs. Supporters argue that preserving the game is not only about sport but also about safeguarding indigenous heritage. As momentum builds, they hope increased visibility will translate into sustained backing from government and cultural institutions.
Hello and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I'm Sabika Shrestha, your host for the weekly current affairs program. Here we pick the major news of the week, unpack its significance and examine how today's decisions shape tomorrow's direction. This week's episode explores the challenges facing Nepal's new government as a major political shift takes place. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party is moving closer to a near two-thirds majority, poised to reshape leadership and governance in the country. At the same time, Parliament is undergoing a historic generational change. In the recent elections, 99 out of 275 MPs are the age of 40, marking a clear rise of young leadership. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party leads this shift alongside Nepali Congress and CPN-UML, with many first-time lawmakers bringing fresh energy and new perspectives. As Nepal balances experience with youthful ambition, concerns remain around foreign employment and opportunities for the next generation. We also explore how rising global tensions are affecting Nepalese at home and abroad. All this and more in this week's episode. A historic single-majority government led by the Rashtriya Swatantra Party faces soaring expectations alongside daunting challenges. Talks with tackling systemic corruption and reshaping Nepal's economic and foreign policy direction, the administration must deliver swift and visible reforms. Here is an analytical report.
Days ahead from assuming power, the RSP's first single-majority government carries the weight of a movement defined by a new generation. Experts suggest the incoming administration faces a dual challenge: eradicating systemic corruption while navigating a complex overhaul of the nation's economic and foreign policy framework. Following the decisive March 5 parliamentary elections, the Rashtriya SSP now controlling 66% of the House is under immense pressure to honor the Gen Z mandate. Experts argue that maintaining this stability may require bold constitutional amendments to institutionalize reform and root out corruption. Political analyst Arun Subedi emphasizes the administration's success hinges on two pillars: radical economic transformation and a sophisticated recalibration of Nepal's diplomatic and foreign policy frameworks to drive national development.
संविधान संशोधन अपरिहार्य छ। आर्थिक रूपान्तरणका लागि आर्थिक नीति र विधि प्रो प्राइभेट र प्रो ग्रोथ रूपमा चाहिँ मतलब अब लिबरलाइजेसनको दोस्रो अध्याय उहाँहरूले सुरु गर्न अनिवार्य छ। नेपालको परराष्ट्र नीतिलाई नेपालको राष्ट्रिय हितमा केन्द्रित गरेर अगाडि बढाउन र पुनर्परिभाषित गर्न जरुरी छ। यी तीनटा एजेन्डामा उहाँहरू अपेक्षित रूपमा प्रवेश गर्न सक्नु भएन भने एउटा नजिर यसपालिको असंगठित विद्रोहले स्थापित गरेका छ। प्रधानमन्त्रीले मध्यावधि गराएनन् भने पनि सडकले हस्तक्षेप गरेर मध्यावधि निर्वाचन गराउन सक्छ।
Some have assessed that even if the government and parliament change, it could be challenging to work if there is no change in personnel management bureaucracy. They have suggested that since Nepal has capable and knowledgeable employees, work can be made easier by mobilizing them according to the constitution and the law.
जसम्म ब्युरोक्रेसीलाई ठीक ढंगले राजनीतिक नेतृत्वले परिचालन गर्न सकेन भन्छु म चाहिँ, किनभने ब्युरोक्रेसीले सहयोग गरेन त्यसकारण हामीले गर्न सकिनौं भन्न पाइदैन। ब्युरोक्रेसीलाई ठीक ढंगले संविधान र कानुन बमोजिम परिचालन गर्न सक्नुपर्छ। सँगसँगै हाम्रो ब्युरोक्रेसी को क्षमता पनि छ, राज्यको लगानीबाट अनुभव ज्ञान हासिल गरेको पनि छन्। अनुभव र ज्ञान हासिल गरेका ब्युरोक्राट्सहरू सरकारलाई थोरै समय दिने, बाहिर कन्सल्टेन्सी धेरै गर्ने, आफ्नो व्यक्तिगत उन्नयनका निम्ति धेरै गर्ने, राज्यका निम्ति कम गर्ने जुन अहिलेसम्मको टेन्डेन्सी छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ करेक्सन गर्न सक्नुपर्छ।
In Nepal, the Nepali Congress had formed governments based on a single majority in 1991 and 1999, but since then no single party had been able to bring a single majority. Due to this, consensus governments had been formed since 2008. However, public expectations are very high for the RSP, which is preparing to form a government based on a single majority for the first time. Adding to this, newly elected Member of Parliament Anushka Shrestha said the focus will be as mandated by the manifesto of the party. She emphasized that women's issues, promotion of local products in the global market, and addressing youth agendas will be key priorities. She also criticized previous leadership, stating that all leaders had not worked properly in the past.
If we see some of the activities that have been done in the past parliament by people aged older, that might be considered a lot more immature than what we can expect. So I think the level of patience, persistence, maturity that various young people have shown in recent times is actually enough to build the confidence that, yeah, we'll do a good job. What I feel fresh people such as myself will bring to the table is a very pragmatic approach. The basics has to be women's rights. I often say just because we've talked about it a lot does not mean we've fixed it, and recent incidents are very, very much evident that the laws out there to protect our women is not enough, so that will definitely be a priority. And while I might be one person out there, I'm very mindful to represent all the 59 communities, including all the 5 categories.
To address these expectations, it is said that RSP is preparing to make its work more effective by amending the constitution based on necessity.
Talking about Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP, there an interesting question about how the party will run the government as well as the party. RSP has stated that preparations are underway so that senior party leader Balendra Shah will run the government and party president Rabi Lamichhane will lead the party organization, as agreed before the election. A report.
Rashtriya Swatantra Party, which secured a majority in Nepal's March 5 House of Representatives election, has devised a strategy to separate the management of the government from that of the party organization. In Nepal, the traditional practice among political parties is that the leader of the parliamentary party, usually the candidate whose party wins a majority, becomes the prime minister.
However, in the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, President Rabi Lamichhane will handle only the organizational leadership of the party, while senior party leader Balendra Shah will assume the role of leading the government. RSP argues that the country requires both a stable government and a strong party organization, and has therefore deliberately divided the leadership roles.
सभापतिज्यू सरकारमा नजाने र सरकारमा चाहिँ वरिष्ठ नेता बालेन्द्र शाहजीको नेतृत्वमा जाने भन्ने जुन एउटा तयारी छ यसले पनि पार्टी र सरकार बीचको चाहिँ समन्वय एकदम प्रगाढ बनाउँछ जस्तो लाग्छ.
According to the RSP statute, the leader of the parliamentary party is typically elected by ordinary party members from among candidates before an election. However, no such election was held prior to this House of Representatives election. Instead, the party relies on a 7-point agreement reached between Balendra Shah and the RSP at the time of the party's formation, which serves as the basis for selecting the Prime Minister. The party's General Secretary, Kabindra Burlakoti, stated that the Prime Minister will be chosen on the basis of political consensus.
बालेन्द्र शाहज्यूसँग त्यतिखेरकै सहमतिमा प्रधानमन्त्रीको प्रस्तावित उम्मेदवारको रूपमा अगाडि सार्ने गरी निर्णय भएको छ र त्यो सहमतिको आधारमा केन्द्रीय समितिले त्यसलाई अनुमोदन पनि गरेको छ र केन्द्रीय समितिले अनुमोदन गरिसकेको कारणले गर्दाखेरि त्यो एउटा राजनीतिक दस्तावेजको रूपमा रहन्छ र केन्द्रीय समितिले नै सोही अनुसार संसदीय दलको नेता बनाउने गरी प्रस्ताव चाहिँ संसदीय दलमा पठाउँछ र संसदीय दलले केन्द्रीय समितिको प्रस्ताव अनुसारको संसदीय दलको नेता चयन गर्ने र प्रधानमन्त्री चाहिँ संसदीय दलको नेता हुने जस्तो गरी जान्छ. यो चाहिँ राजनीतिक सहमतिबाट आइसकेपछि त्यो केन्द्रीय समितिले पारित गरिसके पछाडि त्यसैले नै ओभररुल गर्छ र विधानको व्यवस्थालाई पनि समेटेर अगाडि बढ्छ. यो
RSP, having 182 out of the 275 seats in the House of Representatives, is preparing to form a government under Article 76, Clause 1 of Nepal's constitution, based on a single-party majority. The party plans to form an initial cabinet of 11 to 18 members, with ministries assigned according to expertise. The government is expected to be officially formed on March 27, immediately following the oath-taking of lawmakers on March 26.
Let's look at the parliament now. In a historic shift, Nepal's parliament now reflects unprecedented social diversity, marking a significant milestone in the country's democratic evolution. The newly formed legislature brings together voices from communities long underrepresented at decision-making level. For the first time, the federal parliament includes a broader mix of newcomers, a record number of women lawmakers, a transgender representative, and members of the differently abled community, signaling a more inclusive political landscape. We look deeper with this report.
Nepal's newly elected House of Representatives marks a historic shift, bringing together a diverse mix of lawmakers for the first time. Youthful first-time representatives, record numbers of women through the proportional system, the country's first transgender women, and differently abled members are joining the legislature, making it one of the most inclusive and representative parliaments in the nation's history. Adding to the formal transition, the Election Commission Nepal on Thursday handed over certificates to winners elected under the proportional representation system, congratulating them on their upcoming parliamentary term during a ceremony held at its premises. Riding on a wave of public demand for reform and accountability, the RSP secured a major share of seats, largely driven by first-time candidates and political newcomers. Unlike traditional parties, the RSP's parliamentary cohort is heavily composed of freshers, individuals from non-political backgrounds such as media, business, civil society, and activism. This generational and professional shift is widely seen as a catalyst for new governance approaches and institutional transformation. The composition of the House reflects a broader societal change. For the first time, a transgender woman has been elected as a member of parliament, marking a historic milestone for representation and inclusion in Nepal's political landscape.
I'm the first transgender woman who represented in parliament, right? So actually most of our transgender community, they have a citizenship problem marriage equality. There is no law and policy. So my first priority to how to address and how to write to law in my community and for social justice.
In addition, the new parliament includes representation from differently abled individuals, further strengthening the voice of communities that have long remained on the margins of political decision-making.
My key priorities will be anti-corruption agendas, the agendas of Gen Z movement, service delivery, and physically different peoples like me.
Women's representation has also seen a notable rise, with very few made to run and then elected from the direct elections. Political parties were by the law mandated to bring in more women to secure at least 33% representation.
I think it's going to be very interesting because lots of us are freshers. There's a lot to learn, and there are some people who have had, who will be repeating the parliament. So I think it'll be a very interesting, and it's yet to unfold. And I think the kind of background we come from, if it's in the interest of the country, we all will be together and we'll unite and work for the betterment of the nation.
As Nepal enters this new parliamentary phase, the blend of fresh leadership and inclusive representation has raised hopes for a more responsive, transparent, and forward-looking political system. The leadership's ability to harness the energy of new lawmakers while ensuring policy coherence will be closely watched in the coming months.
Not just in terms of inclusion, a major generation shift will be seen in Nepal's House of Representatives now. In the recent House of Representatives election, more than 1 in 3 MPs, 99 out of 275, are under the age of 40 years. This is a clear signal of the rise of young leaders in national politics. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party leads with 82 young parliamentarians, while Congress, UML and other parties contribute smaller numbers. Many are first-time legislators, bringing fresh energy to a house that now blends youthful voices with experienced leaders. Our colleague Siksha Sharma explains more.
Nepal's long-standing question, where are the young leaders in politics, may finally have an answer. In the recent House of Representatives election held on March 5, out of 275 elected members, 99 are under 40 years old. That's more than 1 in 3 MPs. This is a sharp jump from just 13% in the previous election, signaling a new era of youth participation. Among these young parliamentarians, 55 are men and 44 are women. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party dominates with 82 young MPs, while Congress has 8, UML 6, Shram Samskriti Party 2 and Rashtriya Prajatantra Party 1. The Nepali Communist Party has no young MPs this time. Breaking it down by age, 45 MPs are between 25 and 34, 97 are between 35 and 44, and 75 are between 45 and 54, together making up more than half of the House. Many of these MPs are first-time legislators, bringing fresh energy and enthusiasm to national politics. While youth alone cannot solve all political challenges, this election marks a major generational shift, fulfilling the people's mandate expressed after the Gen Z movement. The oldest MP elected is 78-year-old Arjunar Singh Kesi of Nepali Congress. This shows that a House now blends vibrant young voices with experienced leadership. Hopes are high that the new composition could change the dynamics of Nepal's politics, making it more inclusive, participatory, and responsive to the aspirations of younger generations.
Away from national politics, the Middle East conflict continued taking limelight in media throughout the week. Amid ongoing uncertainty and conflict involving Iran and its regional neighbors, the number of Nepali workers heading to Gulf countries has seen a decline. However, foreign employment remains a key livelihood option for many, with hundreds still departing Nepal each day. A report.
At Tribhuvan International Airport, a steady flow of young Nepalis continues as they leave the country in search of work abroad. 30-year-old Purushottam Rai from Sarlahi is among them. Since completing his school-leaving certificate over a decade ago, he has searched for employment across multiple cities in Nepal, including Kathmandu. Unable to secure a job even paying 10,000 rupees a month, he is now heading to Malaysia for work. Despite ongoing tensions and conflict in Iran, Rai says his priority is earning a livelihood and global events have little direct impact on his decision.
धेरै ठाउँमा डुल्यो तर चाहिँ कहीँ काम पाए छैन काम नपाएको कारणले हामीहरू भ्रष्टाचारीको कारणले हामीहरू चाहिँ उता खाडी मुलुकतिर चाहिँ कमाउन गइरहेछौं घर परिवार पाल्नको लागि.
Rai represents many like them. According to officials, more than 2,000 Nepalese continue to leave the country daily for foreign employment. Over the past month, travel disruptions have been reported in parts of the Middle East due to heightened tensions involving the United States, Israel, and Iran. Several Gulf transit routes have been affected. However, departures from Nepal have not stopped. Young workers say going abroad is not a choice but a necessity driven by limited opportunities at home.
नेपालमा रोजगारी हामीले भनेको जस्तो पाएको छैन के गर्नु यस्तै छ नेपालको अवस्था हेर्दा
नेपालमा केही रोजगार नपाएर चाहिँ अब बाहिर जान आट्यो नभए त्यतिकै आफ्नो घर परिवार छोडेर त्यतिकै कोही जादैन बाहिर अब त्यही हो आफ्नो भविष्य बनाउनु पनि पर्यो.
कुनै व्यापार व्यवसाय सुरुमा लगानी लाउनै सकिदैन एक त अनि अर्को त अब सुरु गरियो भने पनि त्यसलाई चलाउन एकदमै गाह्रो छ. त्यही भएर मान्छेहरूले अहिले त्यस्तो गर्नुभन्दा बाहिर गएर केही गरेर उतै सेटल हुने त्यस्तै सोचिरहेका हुन्छन् सबैले.
Data from Department of Foreign Employment shows that more than 441,000 Nepalese obtained labor permits for foreign employment by mid-February of the current fiscal year. In the previous fiscal year, the number reached 887,000.
The escalating conflict in the Middle East is casting a long shadow over the Nepali economy. While the fighting remains centered in the Middle East, the ripple effects are reaching the doorsteps of millions of households in Nepal. With nearly a quarter of our GDP tied to foreign employment, experts warn of a brewing domestic crisis as the flow of labor and remittances come under threat. Sivani Thapa Basnath digs deeper.
Kathmandu's Trivandrum International Airport. It is usually a gateway of hope for thousands of migrant workers. But today, the atmosphere is heavy with uncertainty. As tensions in the Middle East intensify, the lifeline that sustains the Nepali economy is beginning to fray. For decades, the Gulf region has been the primary destination for over 1.7 million Nepali workers. Now, that stability is at risk. Beyond the immediate fear of fuel price hikes, a deeper structural threat is emerging in the sectors of agriculture, tourism, and most critically, remittances.
नेपालको अर्थव्यवस्थामा पनि हुन्छ त्यहाँ काम गर्न पाएन भनेपछि उनीहरू मान्छेहरू नेपालमा आइदिन्छ राम्रो रेमिटेन्स गर्दिन्छ यसको ठुलो इम्प्याक्ट चाहिँ हाम्रो यो इकोनोमीमा पनि पर्दैन रोजगारी खोज्दिनु पर्ने एउटा चिन्ता सधैँ छ र रेमिटेन्स आइदिएन भने त्यहाँबाट आएर विप्रेषण आइदिएन भने नेपालको इकोनोमी पनि डामाडोल हुने अवस्था हुन सक्छ अर्को कुरा किन गर्ने त्यहाँबाट विदेश मान्छे जान पाएनन् एउटा समस्या होला यहाँ पनि विदेश पठाउने भने ठुलो संख्यामा मान्छेहरू त काम गरिरहेको छ चाहे यो रोजगार व्यवसायीहरू किन नहुन् ओरिएन्टेसनका मान्छेहरू किन नहुन् मेडिकलका मान्छेहरू किन नहुन् र एयरपोर्टका एयरलाइन्सहरू पनि तपाईले हेर्नुहुन्छ ठुलो रोजगारी यहाँमा पनि चुनौती आउन सक्छ.
The numbers tell a stark story. According to Nepal's central bank, the Nepal Rashtra Bank, the Gulf countries contribute roughly 41% of all remittances entering the country. While the first 7 months of this fiscal year saw a record inflow of 1,271 billion rupees, that momentum is hitting a wall. In the month of February alone, the number of labor permits issued dropped from over 30,000 last year to just 20,000 this year, a staggering 33% decline.
यदि अलिकति मिडटर्मको हुने बित्तिकै हाम्रो नेपालको सोशल प्रोटेक्सन्सका जति प्रोग्रामहरु छ त्यसलाई पनि मिलाउनु पर्ने हुन सक्छ उनीहरु तत्कालै आयो भने खाने पनि पैसा नहुन सक्ला है त कतिपय ठाउँमा पैसा नकमाएर पनि आउन सक्ने हुन सक्छ तिनीहरुले राज्यले हेर्दिनु पर्ने हुन्छ नि त एउटा सोशल प्रोटेक्सनको थीममा एउटा के भन्छ नि बियोन्ड द इन्डिभिजुअल कन्ट्रोल केही कुरा हुन्छ भने त्यो सरकारले हेर्दिनु पर्ने हुन सक्छ.
A drop in these permits means fewer jobs abroad, less money flowing into rural villages, and a potential liquidity crunch for the banks. This has led to urgent calls for the government to move away from the labor export model and focus on creating jobs within its own borders. As the conflict shows no signs of easing, the government is being urged to act quickly on long-term domestic employment strategies to prevent a full-scale socio-economic collapse.
That's the perspective for this week. We will be back next week with other major highlights of the week. Thank you for watching NTV World.
पाटन दरबार स्क्वायर विश्व सम्पदामा पर्नुको आधारहरूको कुरा गर्दै सबभन्दा पहिले त यो विश्व सम्पदामा युनेस्कोले 1979 मा यो पाटन दरबार क्षेत्र अथवा त्यो बेला चाहिँ काठमाडौँ भ्याली वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट भनेर काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाको 7 वटा विभिन्न क्षेत्रहरू जसलाई अहिले हामी संरक्षित स्मारक क्षेत्र भन्छौँ 7 वटा विभिन्न क्षेत्रहरूलाई काठमाडौँ भ्याली वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइटमा इन्लिस्टिङ गरेको थियो। अब त्यसमा सबभन्दा ठुलो कुरो त के भन्दाखेरि तपाईँले पाटन दरबार स्क्वायर, काठमाडौँ दरबार स्क्वायर, भक्तपुर दरबार स्क्वायर हेर्नुभयो भने यो 17औं शताब्दीसम्म मल्ल राजाहरूले यहाँ शासन गर्दाखेरिको दरबार क्षेत्र हो। दरबार स्क्वायर नामैले अब धेरैले सोध्छन् दरबार स्क्वायर भनेको के हो भनेर। वास्तवमा यो तीनटा त्यो बेला चाहिँ यो तीनटा अहिलेको ठुलो सहरहरू पहिला तीनटा छुट्टा छुट्टै राज्य नै थिए, छुट्टा छुट्टै देशकै रूपमा स्थापित थिए, मल्ल राजाहरू थिए। त्यसकारण राजाहरूको दरबार भएको कारणले दरबार स्क्वायर भन्ने हो। अब पाटन दरबार स्क्वायरको कुरा गर्दाखेरि पाटन दरबार स्क्वायरमा पाटन दरबार पुरानो मल्ल राजाको दरबार लगायत यहाँ भएका विभिन्न मन्दिरहरू हेर्नुभयो भनेदेखि यहाँ 16औं शताब्दीदेखि लिएर 17औं 18औं शताब्दीसम्मका पैगोडा शैलीका र शिखर शैलीका विभिन्न मन्दिरहरू। त्यसमा सबैभन्दा पुरानो भनेको 1565 मा बनेको चारनारायणको मन्दिर हो। यो चारनारायणको मन्दिर लगायत अरू मन्दिरहरूमा हेर्नुभयो भने हामी यसलाई हाम्रो पैगोडा शैली भन्छौँ। यो चाहिँ नि नेपाली एकदम बेग्लै किसिमको आफ्नै पहिचान भएको पैगोडा शैली हो। तपाईँले साउथ इस्ट एसियातिर अन्त हेर्न जानुभयो भने पैगोडा शैली भनेको भिन्नै प्रकारको छ। तर हाम्रो यहाँको पैगोडा शैली भनेको मल्टी रुफ, धेरैवटा छाना भएको, झिङ्गटीको छाना भएको त्यस्तो मन्दिरलाई चाहिँ हामी पैगोडा शैली भन्छौँ। यो चारनारायणको मन्दिर लगायत अन्य पैगोडा शैलीको मन्दिरहरूमा हेर्नु भने काष्ठकलाले यति भरिपूर्ण छ। तपाईँले प्रत्येक एक एकवटा सानो टुँडालदेखि लिएर त्यहाँको झ्यालहरू हेर्नुभयो भनेदेखि यो पक्कै पनि विश्वमा चिनाउन सक्ने खालको नेपाली कलाकृति रहेको छ। यो वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइटमा इन्लिस्टिङ हुनुमा सायद यिनै मुख्य कारण हो।
पाटन दरबार कसले बनाएर कहिले बनायो भन्ने कुराहरू चाहिँ इतिहासमा एकिनमिति पाउन सकिँदैन। तर यसको ऐतिहासिकताको चर्चा गर्दा चाहिँ किराँत कालदेखि नै सुरुवात गर्नुपर्ने छ। यसको नाम एल भएको कारणले गर्दा कसैले एलम्बरको नामबाट एल रहन गयो या पनि भन्ने कुरा छ। त्यसपछि आएर हामीले लिच्छवीकालीनमा चाहिँ 643 को एउटा अभिलेख यो केशवनारायण चोकमा देखिन्छ भने अर्को 570 एडीको चाहिँ मङ्गहिटी धारा पनि देख्न सकिन्छ। त्योभन्दा पछिको संरचनाहरू चाहिँ सबै मल्ल शासकको बेलामा बनेको देखिन्छ।
यो मन्दिर चाहिँ नि राजा सिद्धि नरसिंह मल्लले 1636-37 मा बनाउनु भएको। 1636 त्यो बेलामा हामीसँग ढुङ्गे टेक्नोलोजी त्यति थिएन। ढुङ्गाको टेक्नोलोजी चाहिँ लिच्छवी कालमा धेरै राम्रो थियो। त्यसपछि हामीले त्यो ढुङ्गाको टेक्नोलोजीमा त्यति त्यो ढुङ्गाको मठ मन्दिरहरू बनाउने टेक्नोलोजीमा त्यति हामी अगाडि बढेनौँ। तर इँटा र माटोकोमा काठकोमा चाहिँ कतिवटा शैलीमा हामी धेरै माथि गयौँ। त्यसपछि ढुङ्गाको जुन शैलीमा जानु पर्दाखेरि त्यो बेलामा हाम्रो यहाँको मिस्त्रीहरूलाई साह्रै समस्या पर्यो। माटोको चाहिँ अडाइदिन सक्छु त्यो ठुलो अल्गो त गगनचुम्बी त्यो बेलाको हिसाबले, यो त ढुङ्गाको त हामी सक्दैनौँ भन्ने भएपछि त्यो समस्या गनगन हुँदै गर्दाखेरि ठड्याउन नसक्ने भइसक्यो। एकजना बुढो मान्छे जान्ने मान्छे आएर मोडेल सोडेल बनाएर यसरी गर्नुहोस् है सिकाएर जानुभयो। अनि उहाँलाई विश्वकर्माको अवतार मानेर उहाँलाई सम्झनामा उहाँले पूजा गरेर अनि त्यसपछि कृष्ण मन्दिर बनाउन सुरु गरेको भन्यो। तल्लो तल्लामा हेर्नु होला तपाईँले बच्चाहरूको लागि खेल्न रमाइलो, बच्चाहरूले बुझ्ने ज्ञान सिम्बा शार्दुला राखेको छ। त्योभन्दा माथि जानुभयो भने तपाईँले देख्नुहुन्छ रामायणको मर्यादा, समाजमा मर्यादा कसरी कायम गर्ने सामान्य बच्चाभन्दा अलिकति माथिल्लो स्तरको लागि ज्ञान छ। रामायणको ज्ञानहरू, रामायणको चित्रपट छ त्यहाँ, त्यसमा अक्षरले पनि कुदेको छ, यो भनेको यो गरेको यो वर्णन छ। अनि अझ त्योभन्दा माथिल्लो स्तरमा जानुहुन्छ भने महाभारतको राजनीतिको ज्ञान दिएको छ हेर्नुहोस् है। सामान्यभन्दा माथिल्लो स्तरमा गएको छ, महाभारतको ज्ञान दिने कोसिस। त्योभन्दा पनि माथि जानुहुन्छ भने बनारस, काशी, दार्शनिक ज्ञान, धर्म मात्र होइन धर्मको पनि प्रकाण्ड माथि पुगेपछि दार्शनिक ज्ञानहरू राखेको छ। त्योभन्दा माथि तपाईँ एक तला माथि जानुभयो भने तपाईँले के पाउनुहुन्छ, फेरि शिवको मूर्ति पाउनुहुन्छ। शिव अवतार पनि त्यही हुन्छ। सबभन्दा माथिल्लो तल्लामा फेरि हेर्नु होला तपाईँले देख्नुहुन्छ 4 नारायण राखिदिएको छ, शिलालेखमा भने जस्तै सृष्टिको वैकुण्ठ।
अब यो म पर्को टोलमा बसेको नाताले चाहिँ पर्को टोलबाटै हराएको लक्ष्मीनारायणको चाहिँ मूर्ति जो छ त्यसको बारेमा चाहिँ अब खोजनीति गर्ने हाम्रो कर्तव्य पनि भयो र मेरो पनि कर्तव्य हुन आयो। यो हराएको चाहिँ करिब यो 44 सालतिर हो खास चाहिँ। अनि हामीले चाहिँ अब मूर्ति हराइसकेपछि अब त्यहाँ भक्तजनहरूलाई पूजा गर्नको लागि अब के गर्ने, अब मन्दिर चाहिँ छ तर मूर्ति नभएपछि त त्यहाँ त अब अशोभनीय हुने भयो। त्यसैले हामीले त्यसको चाहिँ अब अर्को छुट्टै एउटा लक्ष्मीनारायणकै अब स्वरूपको चाहिँ एउटा मूर्ति बनाएर चाहिँ प्रतिष्ठापन गऱ्यौँ हामीले। त्यसपछि एकजना हाम्रो यो जयलिन भन्ने एकजना आर्टिस्ट हुनुहुन्छ, कलाकार हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँले चाहिँ हराएको मूर्तिको बारेमा चाहिँ त्यो मूर्तिको पनि उहाँले स्केच गर्नुभएको छ। त्यो स्केच चाहिँ उहाँले कहाँबाट लिनुभयो भनेपछि यो हाम्रो लेन्सिन वाङदेलले चाहिँ लेख्नुभएको एउटा द स्टोलन इमेजेस अफ नेपाल भन्ने एउटा किताब छ। त्यो किताबबाट चाहिँ उहाँले लिनुभएको। अनि त्यो स्केचबाट चाहिँ उहाँ चाहिँ अमेरिकाको चाहिँ यो डल्लास म्युजियममा चाहिँ भ्रमणमा जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ देख्नु भएको छ। त्यो जो मैले चाहिँ स्केच गरेको त्यही नै हो भन्ने उहाँ लागिसकेपछि चाहिँ अब त्यो कुरा चाहिँ गभर्मेन्ट लेभलमा पुग्यो। त्यसपछि त्यहाँबाट चाहिँ ल्याउने प्रक्रिया सुरु भयो। अनि त्यो प्रक्रिया सुरु भइसकेपछि चाहिँ अब यहाँ हाम्रो महानगरपालिकाले पनि अब आवश्यक चाहिँ सहयोगहरू जुटाएको छ त्यो ल्याउने काममा चाहिँ। त्यसै अरू थुप्रै चाहिँ अब हाम्रा संस्कृति प्रेमीहरू होइन, अब यो हितैषीहरू, शुभेच्छकहरू सबैले चाहिँ सहयोग गरेर यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ प्रतिस्थापन गर्न चाह्यौँ हामीले।
मणिमण्डपको बारे कुरा गर्नुपर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो यो मणिमण्डप चाहिँ 2टा पार्टी छ, जुन त्यो मङ्गल बजारको त्यो हिटी तल जानेकोमा चाहिँ। अनि त्यो पार्टी बस्नको लागि मात्रै होइन कि त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ कल्चर र त्यसमा चाहिँ हिस्टोरी धेरै कुरा जोडिरहेको छ। स्पेसली कुरा गर्नुपर्दाखेरि त्यसमा चाहिँ हाम्रो मच्छिन्द्रनाथ जात्रामा चाहिँ एकदम ठुलो रोल खेल्छ त्यसले चाहिँ। अब हामी तल जाँदाखेरि दाहिनेपट्टिकोमा चाहिँ त्यहाँनिर बसेर हाम्रो गुठीको मच्छिन्द्रनाथ गुठीको चाहिँ मानिसहरू अनि प्लस पानीजु खलकहरू अनि ज्योतिष खलकहरू चाहिँ बसेर त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ कुन दिन जात्रा गर्ने, कुन दिन रथ तान्ने, कुन दिन फोटो देखाउने, त्यो सबै डेटहरू चाहिँ त्यहाँ बसेर चाहिँ सबै खलकहरू बसेर चाहिँ सहमतिमा चाहिँ त्यो फिक्स गर्ने गरिन्छ। सो अहिलेसम्म पनि त्यो चाहिँ कल्चर चाहिँ अहिलेसम्म पनि कन्टिन्यू भइरहेको छ।
दरबार स्क्वायर भनौँ अथवा पाटन सहर भनौँ, यो चाहिँ नि प्राचीन कालदेखि नै लिच्छवी काल अथवा त्योभन्दा पनि अगाडि किराँत कालदेखिकै महत्त्वपूर्ण ऐतिहासिक पुरातात्विक महत्त्वको स्थल हो। यहाँ चाहिँ नि मूर्त अमूर्त सम्पदाहरूले चाहिँ धनी छ यो सहर। यहाँ चाहिँ जस्तो अब हामीले दरबार स्क्वायरबाट बाहिर हेऱ्यौँ भनेदेखि चाहिँ नि विभिन्न वास्तु संरचनाहरू देख्न सकिन्छ। यी संरचनाहरू चाहिँ नि मल्लकालदेखिका संरचना भए पनि यसले चाहिँ मल्लकालभन्दा धेरै अगाडिदेखिको इतिहास बोकेको छ। यहाँ चाहिँ नि यो मूर्त सम्पदा मात्रै होइन, यहाँ चाहिँ नि विभिन्न अमूर्त सम्पदाहरू पनि त्यत्तिकै मात्रामा भएको कारणले गर्दा चाहिँ नि यहाँ पर्यटकहरू आउने यसको चाहिँ नि महत्त्व विश्वमा नै प्रसिद्ध रहेको छ।
आजभन्दा 382 वर्ष अगाडि राजा सिन्नरसिंह मल्लको पालामा उनका गुरुद्वय हरिवंश राजोपाध्याय तथा विश्वनाथ राजोपाध्यायको सहयोग र सल्लाहमा चाहिँ यो नाच देश र जनताको कल्याणको लागि 5 दिनबाट सुरु भएको थियो। अनि पछि उनका छोरा भन्नाले सिन्नरसिंह मल्लका छोरा श्रीनिवास मल्लले यस नाचमा बाटो प्याख त्यो भनेको लोक नाटक 7 दिनको हुन्छ, यो नाचहरूलाई थपेर यस नाचलाई चाहिँ 12 दिनसम्म सञ्चालन गर्नुभयो। पछि उनका पनि छोरा श्रीनिवास मल्लका छोरा योग नरेन्द्र मल्लले चाहिँ यसमा यो नाचमा चाहिँ अरू उषाहरण र माधव बानल भन्ने नाचहरू थपेर यसलाई चाहिँ कार्तिक महिनाभरि त्यो भनेको 27 दिन तिहारको 3 दिन बाहेक एकै महिना सञ्चालन गर्नुभयो। यो कार्तिक महिनाभरि सञ्चालन गरिने भएकोले पनि यो नाचलाई चाहिँ कार्तिक नाच भनेको हो। र अनि यो नाचमा चाहिँ हाम्रो नेवार समुदायको बाहुल्यता रहने गर्छ। हाम्रो नेवार समुदायको सम्पूर्ण जातहरू माथिल्लोदेखि लिएर सम्पूर्ण तल्लो जातसम्मको यसमा यो नाचमा समावेश भएको छ। अनि विभिन्न जात अनुसारै यसमा कलाकारहरू साथसाथै यसमा सहयोग गर्नेहरूलाई पनि भिन्न कामहरू छुट्याइ आएको छ, जुन हालसम्म पनि निरन्तरता भइरहेको छ।
छोरा नातिहरूले भोलि पर्सि चाहिँ हाम्रा बाजे बराजुले के बनाएर गए, हामी कहाँ चाहिँ कस्तो कस्तो किसिमको टेक्नोलोजीहरू थिए, हाम्रो कल्चर के थिए इत्यादि कुराहरू उनीहरूले पनि जानोस् भन्ने हिसाबले यस्ता चिजहरूलाई चाहिँ बचाइराख्नुपर्ने एकदमै आवश्यक ठान्छु। त्यसकारण चाहिँ भुइँचालोले जति पनि भत्के ती सबै चाहिँ फेरि कुनै चाहिँ नभत्केकालाई हामीले रेट्रोफिटिङ गरेर पनि जोगायौँ र भत्केकालाई पुनर्निर्माण गरेर फेरि पुरानै शैलीमा पुरानै जति पनि सामानहरू हामीले पुनः प्रयोग गर्न योग्य थिए त्यो सामानहरू जुन बटुलेर राखेको थियो त्यसलाई नै फेरि पुनः प्रयोग गरेर हामीले मन्दिरहरू बनायौँ। जस्तो हामीले नयाँ बनाउन नसकिने भन्ने होइन कि नयाँ बनाउँदाखेरि त्यसको जति महत्त्व हुन्छ त्यसलाई हामी चाहिँ भनौँ न अब अर्को 50 वर्षपछि हामीले त्यो नयाँ राम्रै बनाए पनि यो चाहिँ 72 सालको भुइँचालोपछि बनाए यसको चाहिँ 75 वर्ष भएछ भन्ने चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ जुन रिसर्चबाट देख्छौँ। तर अहिले जुन मन्दिरहरू छन् 300-400 वर्ष पुरानो छन् त्यसलाई नै हामीले जोगाइराख्यो भने अझ त्यसको चाहिँ महत्त्व बढ्दै जान्छ। त्यसकारण जति सक्यो त्यति चाहिँ हामीले पुरानो सामग्रीहरूलाई पुनः प्रयोग गरेर त्यसलाई नै चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ युज गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने चाहिँ मान्यता राख्दछ।
पाटन दरबार स्क्वायर भनेको चाहिँ ललितपुरको मुटुमै छ, जसलाई हामीले मङ्गल बजार भनिन्छ। लिच्छवीकालदेखि यसमा विभिन्न मनी हुँदै यसलाई चाहिँ पछि अपभ्रंश भएर मङ्गल बजार भएको हो, यसमा इतिहास र पुरातात्विक प्रमाणमा 60वटा मणि छ भनिन्छन्, जसमध्ये मणि केशव, मणि भैरव, मणि गणेश, मणि कुमार, मणि धारा, मणि गुफा र मणि केशव गरी यी 60वटा मणिहरू छन्, जुन यो मङ्गल बजारको यो पाटन दरबारको सेरोफेरोभित्रै रहेको छ। जसमध्ये मणि आइटी भनेको काठमाडौँ उपत्यकाको लिच्छवीकालीन धारा हो, जसलाई मानदेवको नाति भारोबीले बनाएको भनेको अभिलेख कुदिएको छ। मङ्गल बजारको जुन मणि धारा हालसम्म अविरल 1500 वर्षदेखि अविरल रूपमा पानी बग्दै आएको र स्थानीयको सांस्कृतिक सामाजिक महत्त्वको रूपमा रहेको धारा हो। राजपूत कलामा इन्फ्लुएन्स भएको कलाले भरिपूर्ण भएको चाहिँ चित्रकला हो, जुन चाहिँ 16औं शताब्दीमा बनेको। यसमा विशेष गरी सिङ्गारको रूपमा कृष्णलीला सम्बन्धी त्यसको ड्रेस कोड, मल्लकालीन कस्तो ड्रेसहरू लाउँथ्यो, हुन त त्यसमा राजा आफै भएको चित्र पनि हो। त्यसमा सिद्धिनरसिंह मल्लको आफ्नो पोर्ट्रेट पनि जुन रहेको छ।
सुन्दरी चोकको सबसे मुख्य सुन्दर कुरा भनेको चाहिँ यस चोकमा रहेको यो सोसाइटी हो, जसमा चाहिँ यो तान्त्रिज्म अथवा तान्त्रिक देवी देवताहरूको चाहिँ बढी प्रभाव रहेको छ। र सोसाइटीमा चाहिँ जुन एउटा जसबाट चाहिँ उखु जस्तै मिठो पानी आउँछ भने त्यसको सोसाइटीसँगै वरपर रहेका तान्त्रिक देवी देवताका मूर्तिहरूले पनि सुन्दर चोकलाई सुन्दर बनाएको छ। यहाँ अर्को काष्ठकलाको रूपमा चाहिँ शिवलिङ्गहरू पनि रहेका छन्। यहाँ जहाँ चाहिँ 509वटा शिवलिङ्ग रहेका छन् भने तिनीहरूको नाम चाहिँ 501वटा जुन चाहिँ प्रचलित लिपिमा लेखिएको छ। र तपाईँले यहाँ शिवलिङ्गमा पनि उपत्यकाका 64वटा ज्योतिर्लिङ्गहरूको नामहरू पनि यहाँ पाउन सक्नुहुन्छ। राजा सिद्धिनरसिंह मल्ललाई चाहिँ हरेक टोलबाट चाहिँ उपहार स्वरूप काष्ठ झ्यालहरू जुन चाहिँ हरेक बुट्टाहरूले उत्कीर्ण एकदम राम्रो खालका रहेका छन्, जसले पनि सुन्दर चोकलाई सुन्दर बनाउन चाहिँ सहयोग गरेको छ। प्लस यहाँका टुडालहरूमा रहेका आकृतिहरू, इरोटिक आकृतिहरूदेखि लिएर विभिन्न नारी मूर्तिहरूले पनि यस सुन्दर चोकलाई चाहिँ सुन्दर बनाउन मद्दत गरेको छ। साथै यहाँ रहेका सिद्धिनरसिंह मल्लको खाट जुन चाहिँ ढुङ्गाबाट बनेको छ, जहाँ राजा सिद्धिनरसिंह मल्लले चाहिँ गर्मीमा पञ्चाग्नि तापेर र जाडोमा नाङ्गे बसेर तपस्या गर्दथे भन्ने
यसमध्ये मुख्य जात्रा भनेको भीमसेन जात्रा, गाई जात्रा, कृष्णाष्टमी, धेरै जात्राहरू छन्। सबभन्दा ठुलो जात्रा भनेको भीमसेन जात्रा हो। भीमसेन जात्रा ललितपुरको सबभन्दा ठुलो जात्रा, हाम्रो रथ मच्छिन्द्रनाथको रथ यात्रा पछिको ठुलो जात्रा हो। यसमा त यो श्रावण भाद्र महिनामा पर्दछ, कहिले साउनमा कहिले भाद्रमा पर्छ। यो कृष्णाष्टमीको कहिले भोलिपल्ट कहिले पर्सिपल्ट यो जात्रा
मा काशी विश्वनाथ मन्दिरमा मुगल बादशाहले आक्रमण गरेका थियो। आक्रमण गरेको बेलामा काठमाडौँमा पनि खबर पुग्यो, यहाँ मुसलमानले काशी विश्वनाथमा काशी नगरमा आक्रमण गर्न लागेको छ भने यहाँको हिन्दूहरूलाई पनि बडो चोट लाग्यो। अनि यहाँको हिन्दू भागीरथ पहियाहरू उहाँहरू चाहिँ नेपालको फौज सङ्कलन गरेर अब हामी बनारसमा गएर लड्न जान्छ, हामी विश्वनाथ मन्दिर बचाउने, काशीलाई बचाउने भनेर फौज जम्मा गरेर उतातिर हिँडे। अनि जाँदै गर्दै मकवान पुगेपछि उहाँहरूलाई के खबर आयो, काशी त ध्वस्त पारिसक्यो, जितिसक्यो औरङ्गजेबले, काशी विश्वनाथ पनि ध्वस्त पारिसक्यो भनेपछि लौ अब हामी लड्न जाने भनेको त्यसैको लागि हो। अब लडिसक्यो, सबै स्याक गरिसक्यो, काशी नै नष्ट गरिसक्यो भनेपछि अब हामी गएर के काम, गए पनि हामी मर्न जाने मात्र, हामी हारिहाल्छौँ, हामीले केही गर्न सक्यो भने सबै खेतपुरबाट फर्केर आयो फर्केर आएपछि भागिरहेको भएनाले मनमा के खेलिरह्यो भनेदेखि यो मेरो काम फत्ते भएन काशीले बचाउन सकियो अब सानो फौज गयो तर आकांक्षा त ठुलो रहेछ भन्ने
Nepali Congress President proposes roadmap for 15th General Convention of the party, sets September date for leadership reset. Nepal races to finalize budget amid government transition, spending cuts urged as revenues slump. Bird flu crisis zones declared in Dhapa, mass calls underway as local authorities issue high alert. Nepal marks World Tuberculosis Day as data reveals a staggering 16,000 annual deaths nationwide. White House says plans for possible talks with Iran remain uncertain. UNICEF says an average 87 children dying every single day. And history in Miami, Yanik Sinner shatters Djokovic's 10-year record with dominant straight set streak. Hello there, I'm Shivani Thapa Bosnath and this is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours NST. The details now. We begin in Kathmandu, where the Nepali Congress has laid out a definitive timeline for its political future. Party President Gagan Kumar Thapa has proposed a comprehensive roadmap leading towards the 15th General Convention, signaling a period of significant internal restructuring for the party. The proposed schedule marks 9 and 10 September as the dates for the national gathering. However, the process is set to begin much sooner. Starting 4th April, the party will initiate a nationwide drive to update, distribute and verify memberships. Under the party's plan, the final list of active members is expected to be settled by mid-July 2026, paving the way for conventions at the local level. Addressing the Central Working Committee, President Thapa underscored a shift in the party's immediate priorities. Beyond internal logistics, Thapa addressed the Central Congress's role in the current political landscape. The president also addressed the party's performance in recent polls, confirming he had previously offered his resignation from the presidency to take responsibility for the election results. He noted that the upcoming convention remains the final authority on the party's future leadership and strategic direction.
साउन 12 गते गाउँ नगरपालिका अधिवेशन गर्छौं साउन 23 गते प्रदेश सभाको अधिवेशन हुन्छ श्रावणको 30 गते महाधिवेशन प्रतिनिधि चयन हुन्छ र कार्यसमितिको निर्वाचन हुन्छ भदौ 6 र 7 गते जिल्ला अधिवेशन हुन्छ भदौ 15 र 16 गते प्रदेश अधिवेशन हुन्छ भदौ 24 25 र 26 गते नेपाली कांग्रेसको 15औं केन्द्रीय महाधिवेशन हुन्छ सबै साथीभाइलाई कुनै पूर्वाग्रह नराखिकन हामी सबैलाई सहभागी गराएर सम्मिलित गराएर अधिवेशनमा लिएर जान चाहन्छौं हामी सबै र म सबै साथीहरुसँग मद्दत गर्नु अपेक्षा पनि गर्छु.
Thapa further called for strong anti-corruption measures, including investigations into the illegal assets of public officials since 1990. The party has completed its initial election review and plans to expand the review process across all 7 provinces. Nepal's Ministry of Finance is moving ahead with budget preparations for the next fiscal year, despite the wait for a new government following the March 5th elections. Facing a sluggish economic recovery and weak revenue, the ministry has issued a directive to all line agencies: cut spending now. The National Planning Commission has capped the upcoming budget at 1.89 trillion rupees, ordering ministries to freeze non-essential administrative costs. The priority remains on national pride projects and mandatory obligations. To bridge the fiscal gap, a new revenue advisory committee has been formed to overhaul tax and customs, as well as custom reforms, as the country navigates this political transition. Further on this in our cover story later in the bulletin. An emergency alert has been issued in eastern Nepal as bird flu spreads across Jhapa, Morang and nearby districts. The district administration office in Jhapa has declared affected farms in Damak and Jhapa rural municipality as epicenters, banning the movement of poultry, eggs and feed. Hundreds of chickens have been culled in Damak, while around 55,000 chickens have already died or been destroyed in Morang. In Biratnagar, a farmer lost 3,000 chickens after delayed testing confirmed the virus, raising concerns over response delays. Veterinary officials report the infection is spreading to Mechinagar and Arjundhara, with more deaths being reported. Authorities are urging strict precautions as farmers fear further losses and a wider crisis. Yes, we can end tuberculosis. That is the global rallying cry today as Nepal marks World Tuberculosis Day. With 67,000 new cases and 16,000 deaths reported annually in Nepal, the government has set an ambitious target to end the epidemic by 2035. Nationally, tuberculosis remains a major public health challenge, but experts emphasize it is entirely curable. Health officials urge anyone with a persistent cough or chest pain to seek immediate testing. Treatment is provided free of cost at all government health facilities, a critical pillar in Nepal's journey to becoming tuberculosis-free by 2050. And this is our issue of the day. More to come on this shortly after. For now, we turn to the international headliners. The US-Israel-Iran conflict entered its 25th day today, with tensions rising over conflicting claims about ongoing talks. US President Donald Trump said he delayed planned strikes on Iranian energy facilities, citing recent productive conversations aimed at easing tensions. However, Iran denied that any negotiations are taking place. Iran's foreign ministry said it has received messages through friendly countries about US interest in talks, but has not responded, and its position on the Strait of Hormuz and war-ending conditions remains unchanged. The situation follows escalating tensions after US-Israeli strikes began on February 28, triggering retaliatory attacks by Iran and its allies across the region. A dire warning from the United Nations tonight as the conflict in the Middle East enters its 23rd day. UNICEF reports that more than 2,100 children have now been killed or injured, an average of 87 every single day. UNICEF Deputy Executive Director Ted Chaiban describes the toll as devastating, warning that a wider conflict would be catastrophic for millions. Meanwhile, UNESCO is alerting the world to a deepening learning crisis, citing the loss of teachers and the exclusion of the region's most vulnerable students. The impact is also shaking the global economy. UN Ops Chief Jorge da Silva warns that disruptions to shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz are driving up fuel and food prices, hitting developing nations in Asia and Africa the hardest. The United Nations maintains there is no military solution, calling for an immediate ceasefire and a diplomatic path forward. In a display of power and precision, Yanik Sinner has surpassed a decade-long record held by Novak Djokovic by defeating Frenchman Corentin Moutet At the Miami Open, the Italian world number 2 has set a new benchmark for dominance in ATP Masters 1000 events. The 24-year-old secured his 25th and 26th consecutive sets at the Masters level, the highest tier of professional tennis outside the Grand Slams. The 6-1, 6-4 victory took just 71 minutes. Sinner entered the match tied up with Djokovic's record of 24 straight sets, a feat the 24-time major champion established 10 years ago. Sinner's momentum spans 3 tournaments. The 4-time Grand Slam winner has not dropped a set since the Paris Masters in November, a streak that continued through his title-winning run at Indian Wells earlier this month. Against Mutay, the dominance was immediate. Sinner claimed 19 of the first 26 points, closing out the opening set in just 22 minutes. He remains the firm favorite as he moves deeper into the draw in Florida. Coming up after the break, tuberculosis remains a major health concern in Nepal, with thousands of new cases and deaths each year. And experts warn that gaps in detection, stigma and access to treatment are slowing efforts to end tuberculosis by 2035. Our issue of the day coming up right after this short break. We're back with the issue of the day. Nepal faces a sobering health crisis as tuberculosis claims 44 lives every day, with health experts warning that thousands of cases still go undetected in remote communities. While the government scales up AI-assisted testing and free treatment nationwide, officials say overcoming social stigma and ensuring patients finish their medication remain the biggest hurdles to stopping the spread. A report.
Around 67,000 new tuberculosis cases are reported in Nepal each year, while nearly 16,000 people lose their lives to the disease, according to the World Health Organization, equivalent to about 44 deaths every day. Health experts stress that early testing, complete treatment, and public awareness are the most effective ways to control TB. People showing symptoms are urged to seek immediate testing and complete their full course of treatment. Despite ongoing efforts, TB remains a major public health challenge in Nepal.
क्षयरोगका बिरामीले स्वत स्फूर्त रूपमा म क्षयरोगका बिरामी हुँ भन्ने सक्ने अवस्था छैन। जति औषधि चाहिँ खानु पर्थ्यो त्यो चाहिँ उहाँहरूले खाइदिनु भएको अवस्था छैन।
Many patients remain undiagnosed or untreated, particularly in remote and low-income communities where access to health care is limited. To combat the disease, the government provides TB treatment services through 6,241 health institutions, including 785 centers offering microscopy services and 142 facilities providing free rapid testing. Nepal has also expanded community-level detection through AI-assisted digital X-rays, but experts say these services have yet to reach all vulnerable populations. Stigma, delayed diagnosis, and incomplete treatment continue to hinder control measures. In fiscal year 2024-25, 39,151 new TB cases were detected, 61% men, 39% women, and 5.6% children under 15. Health authorities say improving access to services and ensuring patients complete treatment remain key priorities in reducing TB cases and deaths in the country.
More than 8 decades after a cure against tuberculosis was discovered, Nepal still records more than 16,000 deaths annually from the disease. The country ranks among the top 30 high-burden countries that are still far from eliminating the disease. Data indicates that Madhya province bears the highest tuberculosis burden, accounting for 25% of the cases, followed closely by Bagmati at 23%. Rojina Rai with our local correspondent Sanjeev Mandal dig deeper.
Tuberculosis, TB, remains a major public health challenge in Nepal, causing approximately 16,000 deaths annually and 67,000 new infections nationwide. Despite ongoing efforts to control the disease, the number of TB patients in Madhya province continues to rise, accounting for 37% of the national total. This upward trend gives doubt on Nepal's ambitious goal of becoming a TB-free country by 2050. Data indicates that Dhanusa district has the highest number of TB cases in Madhya province, with 1,504 patients, while Saptari has the lowest, the 678. Other districts report the following numbers: Siraha 836, Mahatari 1136, Sarlahi 1466, Bara 1460, Parsa 1409 and Rautahar 1407. Contributing factors include patient not completing their prescribed medication, reluctance to seek treatment, the open border with India, limited public awareness, and insufficient funding.
अहिले हामी आफ्नो कार्यक्रम पनि के छ भने कम्युनिटीसम्म लगेर खोज पडताल गरेर पत्ता लगाउँदा चाहिँ अलि केस बढेको जन देखिएको छ। अर्को कुरा एउटा क्रस बोर्डर इस्यु पनि हो, जुन हाम्रो बोर्डर एरियाहरु छन् त्यहाँ अलि बढी पनि छन्।
To tackle the disease, the government of Nepal has implemented several programs including the DOTS, directly observed treatment, short course, strategy, and TV hostels for patients from heavily affected areas. Additionally, initiatives have been launched to reduce treatment cost for patients and hold municipalities accountable through the TB-free municipality campaign.
बिरामीहरु जुन जिन एक्सपोर्टबाट आरआर भएको आउँछ नि सर, फार्मेसी रेसिस्टेन्ट भएको आउँछ, त्यो बिरामीले जुन गरिब हुन्छ, जो बिरामी गरिब हुन्छ, खानको लागि पाउँदैन, घरमा कोही हेरचाह गर्ने बिरामीको हुँदैन, त्यस्ता बिरामी सर हामीले होस्टलमा भर्ना गरेर औषधि पनि दिएर 24 घण्टा हामी रेखदेख सर त्यहाँ गर्छु सर।
However, despite these efforts, the number of new infections continues to rise. Health experts emphasize that TB is curable if infected person strictly adhere to the full course of medication under medical supervision. Rosina Rai with Sanjeev Mandal from Dhanusa reporting for NTV World.
Nepal's National Tuberculosis Center chief has warned of gaps in Nepal's fight against tuberculosis. Dr. Bhuvan Paudel, director of the National Tuberculosis Center, says gaps remain with many patients still outside the treatment system due to stigma and limited access to technology. Dr. Paudel emphasizes that strengthening outreach, improving early detection, and ensuring treatment completion are crucial if Nepal is to meet its goal of ending tuberculosis by 2035.
परीक्षणको दायरामा उपचारको दायरामा सबै व्यक्तिहरूलाई हामीले ल्याउन सकिएको छैन। एउटा गम्भीर चुनौतीको विषय भएको छ। परीक्षणको दायरालाई पनि अझ हामीले विस्तार गर्नुपर्ने छ।
In our Public Pulse segment, we take the conversation to the streets to gauge community awareness on this global resurgence. From urban centers to rural hubs, we ask the public, why is one of humanity's oldest threats returning with such force?
कसरी क्षयरोग पत्ता लगाउनु त्यसका लागि डिफ्रेन्ट मेसिनहरू हैन जुन नयाँ नयाँ प्रविधिहरू जुन विश्वमा आएका छ त्यो सबै राष्ट्रिय क्षयरोग नियन्त्रण केन्द्रले नेपाल सरकारले लगानी गरेर ल्याएका छन् तर पनि अझै पनि दूरदराजमा हाम्रो सर्भिस पुगेको छैन हैन त्यो प्रत्येक वर्ष हामी सर्भिस विस्तार गरिरहेका छौं र अझै पनि गर्न धेरै बाँकी छ
टिबीको मेडिसिनहरू एकदमै एक्सपेन्सिभ छ हैन 6 महिना 12 महिना 18 महिनासम्मको रेजिमिनहरू छ त्यो अनुसार औषधिहरू किन्नलाई कस्ट पनि त्यही अनुसार चाहिन्छ जति राज्यले हामी अथवा क्षयरोग नियन्त्रणका लागि रकम लगानी गरेको छ त्यो चाहिँ हाम्रो औषधि र डायग्नोसिस क्षयरोगको पहिचान गर्नको लागि किन्ने कन्ज्युमेबल्समै खर्च भइरहेको छ र अझै पनि अपुग्नै छ
हाम्रो शिक्षाको धेरै मध्य प्रदेशमा कमी छ जनचेतनाको धेरै अभाव छ यसको बारेमा सबैलाई यो जनचेतना जगाउनु पर्छ
रोकथाम गर्नलाई हामीले सबभन्दा मुख्य भूमिका भनेको एक्टिभ केस खखार कलेक्सन गर्ने एक्टिभ केसहरू हेर्ने र त्यसरी गरियो भने हामीले यसलाई न्यूनीकरण गर्न सकिन्छ मुख्य यसमा हाम्रो भनेको बिरामी भइसक्यो 6 महिनाको कोर्स खायो भने यो रोग निको हुन्छ
शिक्षित हुनु पर्यो गाउँमा शिक्षाको लहर अझै पुगिसकेको छैन गाउँमा कतिलाई थाहा छैन सरसफाइमा ध्यान दिनु पर्यो थोरै खोकी लागिहाल्यो भने पनि त्यसको समयमा उपचार गरिहाल्नु पर्यो
कुनै यदि क्षयरोगको बिरामी रहेछ भने उलाई सकभर निरोगी व्यक्तिको सामुन्नेमा जाँदाखेरि उसले मास्क लाउनु पर्यो अथवा हाँछिउ गर्दाखेरि उसको सामुन्नेमा हाँछिउ नगर्दिनु पर्यो हैन यदि बिरामी रहेछ भने उलाई जुन चाहिँ कम्प्लिट कोर्स हुन्छ त्यो पूरा गरिदिनु पर्छ त्यो कन्टिन्यू नछुटाइकन कन्टिन्यू रूपमा खाइदिनु पर्छ
Coming up after the break, RSP steps closer to leading the new government as budget preparations move ahead, with ministries racing to meet the March 29 deadline. Also ahead, thousands of local and provincial projects are under review as key decisions are made on which plans will shape Nepal's development next year. Stay with us for our cover story. You're with NewsHour here on NTV World, and it's time for the cover story. Rashtriya Swatantra Party is soon taking over the reign of the new government, with the preparations for the budget of the upcoming fiscal year already underway. Ministry of Finance has already issued March 29 deadline for all line ministries to submit their plans and programs for the upcoming fiscal year. The current expenditures might not be an issue in the budget planning, but the development expenditure might be sketched as RSP takes over. A report.
The Ministry of Finance is already engaged in budget formulation works, although the new government is yet to be formed following March 5 elections. Due to the country's recovering state of economy and lower than expected revenue collection, the Finance Ministry has urged all line agencies to reduce spending and adopt cost-saving measures. National Planning Commission has set budget ceilings along with the guidelines directing the line ministries to prioritize only national pride projects, mandatory government obligations, and highly essential programs. Similarly, the Ministry of Finance has urged other ministries to submit proposals that reduce administrative expenses, keep the spending within set limits, and include only productivity-enhancing programs in the budget. It has also instructed ministries to carefully consider ways to manage high expenditure areas such as employee salaries, allowances, office operations, and social security, while preparing their budget proposals within the given ceiling, according to the Ministry of Finance.
हामी बजेट क्यालेन्डरमा आधारित रहेर काम अगाडि बढेका छौं र अहिले अर्थ मन्त्रालयले खास गरी चाहिँ एउटा टेक्निकल काम र चाहिँ प्रक्रियागत कामहरू अगाडि बढेका छौं र अर्थ मन्त्रालय पनि अब बजेट निर्माणमा आगामी सरकार खास गरी अर्थ मन्त्रालय अर्थ मन्त्रीज्यूको नेतृत्वको प्रतीक्षामा छ मन्त्रीज्यूको बहाली भइसकेपछि हाम्रा कामहरू अझै द्रुत गतिमा चाहिँ अगाडि बढ्छन्.
The Finance Ministry has also formed a Revenue Advisory Committee under the coordination of Revenue Secretary Bhupal Baral. to provide suggestions related to revenue. The committee has been tasked with recommending reforms in areas such as income tax, value-added tax, customs duty rates, and the control of financial crimes. Although the new government may introduce some changes to priorities and programs, once formed, the National Planning Commission has, for now, set a budget ceiling of 1.89 trillion rupees for the upcoming fiscal year. This is slightly lower than the 1.964 trillion rupees budget passed for the current fiscal year. However, following the midterm review, which reduced the current year's budget to 1.688 trillion rupees, the ceiling for the upcoming fiscal year is nearly 200 billion rupees higher.
In a major push for decentralized development, subnational governments have submitted approximately 3,500 projects for federal funding in the upcoming 2026-27 fiscal year. The National Planning Commission confirms that the bulk of these proposals, over 3,300, come from local levels, while provinces have put forward 140 initiatives. These projects are vying for critical equalization and special grants from the federal government. Assistant spokesperson Dr. Diwakar Luitel states that the Commission is currently analyzing costs and feasibility for nearly 2,800 new plans, alongside 678 carryover projects. The final selection will determine the pace of grassroots development and infrastructure across Nepal in the year ahead. From cover story, we now turn to the aftermath of the March 5 House of Representatives election. The Election Commission has announced plans to destroy more than 40% of the ballots printed for the polls. Despite a massive production run of over 41 million documents at the Janak Education Material Center, a 59% voter turnout has left millions of security documents unused. Election Commission spokesperson Narayan Prasad Bhattarai confirmed that printing 7% above the registered voter list is a standard contingency measure. While the high-volume contract helped the Janak Education Material Center recover recent operational losses, the surplus must now be formally disposed of. Under strict legal protocols, these documents will be destroyed to ensure they can never be reused or accessed again. The disposal process is expected to begin later this week under high security. The Supreme Court of Nepal will continue hearings tomorrow on a high-profile challenge against the dismissal of criminal charges involving RSP or the Rashtriya Swatantra Party President Ravi Lamichhane. The division bench of Justice Binod Sharma and Abdul Aziz Musalman adjourned today's proceedings after arguments remained incomplete. The case centers on the controversial decision by Attorney General Sabita Bhandari Baral to withdraw offences related to organised crime and money laundering against the RSP leader. Separate writ petitions filed by advocates Yuvaraj Paudel, Dinesh Tripathi and Abhas Regmi argue that the withdrawal of these charges lacks legal merit. Court spokesperson Arjun Prasad Koirala confirmed that the bench, which was previously mandated for a regular hearing by Justices Sapna Pradhan Malla and Srikant Paudel, will resume its session this Thursday. The government of Nepal has launched a new service-oriented initiative at the Trivandrum International Airport, aimed at easing the transit of foreign nationals of Nepali origin and non-resident Nepalese. Dedicated immigration help desks are now operational at both arrival and departure terminals to cut through traditional hurdles. We look into how these changes are impacting those reconnecting with their roots. Here's a report.
If you are a foreign national of Nepali origin or non-resident Nepali, a separate help desk at the Trivandrum International Airport immigration has been set up to facilitate your arrival and exit. This desk will provide services related to visa processing, necessary paperwork, information and other administrative processes. This service has been launched specially targeting non-resident Nepalese and foreign citizens of Nepali origin.
धेरै क्याटेगोरीमा हामीले सेवा दिएर सेवालाई सहज बनाउने प्रयास गरेका छौं। यसमा एउटा थप क्याटेगोरी यहाँनेर थपिएको छ। यसले गर्दा सेवा थप सरल र सहज हुने हाम्रो विश्वास।
The service recipients have called it a great initiative that will flow positive message around the world.
हेर्दाखेरि सानो कुरा भए पनि यसले धेरै ठुलो भावनात्मक महत्त्व बोकेको छ। नेपालीलाई संसारभरि जोड्ने अभियानमा एउटा कोसे ढुङ्गोको काम गर्छ भन्ने विश्वास हामीले लिएको छौं।
The 24-hour help desk at the airport will provide necessary information, counseling and guidance to passengers. It will specially facilitate the problems of workers, students and tourists returning from abroad.
संसारभरिका नेपालीलाई नेपालसँग जोड्नलाई एउटा बलियो सेतुको काम गर्छ। चिन्दैनौ हामीलाई थाहा छैन लाइनमा बस्ने भन्ने व्यवहारले काँडा भिजेको जस्तो बिस्थ्यो, बडो नरमाइलो लाग्थ्यो। अब यो स्थिति नआउने भयो।
The Department of Immigration believes that this system will further strengthen the relations with the people of Nepali origin living abroad. With the new system, the service delivery of Trivandrum International Airport is expected to be more passenger-friendly, systematic and effective.
As Nepal's critical paddy planting season approaches, the shadow of global instability looms over the national fertilizer supply. While the government has secured nearly 80% of this year's 600,000 metric ton requirement, backed by a 28 billion rupee allocation, rising tensions in the Middle East are threatening the stability of the supply chain. Current stocks at Agriculture Materials Center and Salt Trading stand at over 136,000 tons, with thousands more in transit for the June planting window. However, long-term self-sufficiency remains a challenge. High investment costs and energy demands continue to stall plans for a domestic production plant, leaving Nepal's food security tethered to volatile international markets. Officials maintain there is no immediate cause for panic, though price fluctuations remain a key concern for the monsoon season. It's time we take a quick look into the international headliners, but for now, a quick recap of the headliners. Nepali Congress President proposes roadmap for the party's 15th General Convention, sets September date for leadership resay. Nepal races to finalize budget amid government transition. Spending cuts urged as revenues slump. Bird flu crisis zones declared in Chhath. Mass culls underway as local authorities issue high alert. Nepal marks World Tuberculosis Day as data reveals a staggering 16,000 annual deaths nationwide. White House says plans for possible talks with Iran remain uncertain. UNICEF says an average of 87 children dying every single day. And history in Miami, Yanik Sinner shatters Djokovic's 10-year record with dominant straight set streak. We begin with a tragedy in southern Colombia. A Colombian Air Force C-130 Hercules has crashed shortly after takeoff near Puerto Leguizamo, leaving at least 66 people dead and dozens more injured. The aircraft was transporting 114 Army personnel and 11 crew members when it went down in Putumayo province. Defense Minister Pedro Sanchez confirmed that ammunition on board detonated following a mid-air fire, complicating rescue efforts. Emergency teams remain on site, combing through the wreckage for survivors in what is being described as one of the deadliest aviation disasters in the country's recent history. An official investigation into the cause of the crash is now underway. A sharp and devastating escalation in Sudan's civil war. The United Nations reports that more than 500 civilians have been killed in drone strikes since the start of the year, with the Kordofan region in Sudan bearing the brunt of the violence. According to the United Nations Human Rights Office, The first 2 weeks of March alone saw a staggering 277 fatalities as the use of high-tech, low-cost weaponry intensifies in populated areas. Both the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces are accused of near-daily strikes on critical infrastructure. Just last week, a drone attack on the Al Dayin Teaching Hospital in East Darfur killed 70 people, including 13 children, leaving millions in the region without access to emergency care. The United Nations warns these patterns of indiscriminate attacks on civilians may amount to war crimes.
A sharp increase in the use of drones to conduct airstrikes this year in Sudan underlines the devastating impact of high-tech and relatively cheap weapons in populated areas. According to information received, over 500 civilians were killed in such strikes from the 1st of January to the 15th March. The vast majority of these civilians' deaths were documented in 3 states in the Kordofan region.
On the latest from the US-Israel war on Iran, China has urged all relevant parties to immediately cease fire, end hostilities, and resume peaceful dialogue in response to the United States' claim that it had postponed planned strikes against Iran's power plants to allow for negotiations. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian said the situation could further destabilize the region and undermine international peace and security at a press briefing in Beijing.
战事延宕，不符合任何一方利益，停火止战、停火对话是唯一的出路。中方对当前的局势不断升级外溢，冲击地区和国际和平稳定深感担忧，呼吁相关各方立即停火止战，尽快回到和平对话的轨道上来。
Likewise, Qatar has said that it supports all diplomatic efforts to end the war with Iran after US President Donald Trump announced there had been communication between Washington and Tehran.
لكني أؤكد هنا أنه ليس هناك حاليا أي جهد قطري مباشر فيما يتعلق بوساطة بين الطرفين. تركيزنا حاليا ينصب بشكل كامل على الدفاع عن بلدنا والتعامل مع الخسائر الناتجة عن الهجمات المختلفة التي تعرضت لها دولة قطر، ولكن التواصل كما رأيتم من خلال ما قرأته قبل قليل الاتصالات مع الدول الأخرى سواء على مستوى المنطقة أو دوليا، اللقاءات متعددة الأطراف التي تمت خلال الفترة الماضية.
Meanwhile, the price of Brent crude has climbed back above $100 a barrel after plunging on Monday. On Tuesday morning in Asia, the oil benchmark was up by 3.75% at $103.69, while NYMEX light sweet was 3.42% higher at $91.55. The price of Brent fell by more than 10% on Monday after US President Donald Trump delayed fresh strikes on Iran that was seen as an escalation of the conflict and said a peace deal could be reached soon. But now investors are weighing that against Tehran's denials that it had held talks with the US. We take a short break here. When we come back, we shall have more from the international front, but that would be included in our business section. Market trends and the latest from the business world are up next. We're taking a short breather here.
Australia and the European Union have agreed a sweeping free trade deal after 8 years of negotiations. The deal, worth about 10 billion Australian dollars, was with Australia's Prime Minister and the head of the European Commission, describing it as a mutual win-win. As well as removing almost all tariffs on trade, the two have also agreed to increase cooperation on defence and critical minerals. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described the deals as having a focus on collective resilience in a world that is deeply changing. Under the deal, almost all EU tariffs will be lifted on Australian agricultural products such as wine, fruit and vegetables, olive oil, seafood, most dairy products, and wheat and barley. This will mean a saving of about 37 million Australian dollars for local wine producers and exporters, according to the Australian government. A landmark initiative has been launched under the BIMSTEC framework to enhance regional trade and connectivity. The BIMSTEC Business Council will provide a platform for member nations to collaborate on investment and economic opportunities. The initiative marks a new chapter in connectivity and collaboration among the 7 member nations of BIMSTEC, including Nepal. The council is designed to boost trade, investment, and business partnerships in the region. It will act as a dedicated platform to bring together industry leaders, policymakers, and entrepreneurs, providing opportunities to explore new economic avenues and enhance regional integration. Through this initiative, BIMSTEC nations aim to strengthen ties and drive sustainable growth across the Bay of Bengal region. Some gold dealers in Singapore are seeing a rise in counterfeit items in the market as elevated prices continue to drive demand. Since gold prices surged in January, one dealer said he has filed 50% more police reports compared to the same period last year after encountering suspicious sellers attempting to offload counterfeit items. The dealer said he sees up to 5 fake items a week, ranging from buyers seeking to verify their online purchases to individuals attempting to resell questionable gold. The increase comes as more buyers turn to alternative channels to get their hands on the precious metal. Gold prices have been rallying since early 2025, with strong momentum carrying into this year, driven by geopolitical tensions, central bank buying, and safe haven demand. This has fueled demand, particularly in secondary markets such as online platforms and social media resale channels. Automakers have rolled out a heavy lineup of electric vehicles, EVs, and budget-friendly models despite geopolitical headwinds as the 47th Bangkok International Motor Show has commenced. Among the highlights are entry-level battery electric vehicles, BEVs, priced under about $12,000. The event also features a range of hybrid and plug-in hybrid vehicles alongside electric pickup trucks such as the Isuzu D-Max EV. Automakers admit that escalating tensions between the United States, Israel, and Iran are weighing heavily on the global economy and consumer sentiment. Coupled with stringent lending criteria from local financial institutions, car brands are bracing for another difficult year, with several projecting annual sales to remain flat compared to last year.
Time now to check out the sporting headliners. The Football Supporters Association has filed a formal complaint with the European Commission, accusing FIFA of predatory World Cup ticket pricing. The group alleges that FIFA is abusing its market monopoly through dynamic pricing and bait advertising, effectively locking fans out of the game. The FSA is demanding an end to unclear ticketing practices and calling for stronger consumer protections to ensure fairer access to the world's biggest sporting event. FIFA has yet to issue a formal response to the allegations. A high-stakes standoff in Nepali sports. The National Sports Council has issued a 24-hour ultimatum to the All Nepal Football Association ANFA, demanding a legal basis for its planned March 26 central election. While ANFA maintains the vote aligns with its constitution, the council is warning of administrative and legal action over the lack of official approval. The dispute intensified today as stakeholders held protest, accusing ANFA leadership of rushing an early election using old representatives without completing mandatory club and district level polls. Turning now to the latest weather outlook, starting with the forecast from across Nepal before we look at the global picture. And this brings us to the end of this edition, but before we wrap up, a reminder of the top stories of the day. Nepali Congress President proposes roadmap for the party's 15th General Convention, sets September date for leadership reset. Nepal races to finalize budget amid government transition, spending cuts urged as revenue slump. Bird flu crisis zones declared in Dhapa, mass culls underway as local authorities issue high alert. And Nepal marks World Tuberculosis Day as data reveals a staggering 16,000 annual deaths nationwide. White House says plans for possible talks with Iran remain uncertain. UNICEF says an average of 87 children dying every single day. And history in Miami, Yanik Sinner shatters Djokovic's 10-year record with dominant straight set streak. And that's it from NewsHour. Do connect to us through our social sites and also our official website, nepaltvworld.com. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
President Abraham Lincoln said many years ago, if you think that education is expensive, how much ignorance do you want to finance? Right.
Many of these economists now, they have a tech-based startups. And these tech-based startups, for them to even ideate and progress, you need ideas, you need people who have the experience as well as resources. I think that's exactly the space where you are an advantage. So I think Nepal should see this as an advantage and then think innovatively You don't have to follow other country. You find what works for you, but goal is to make sure that is multiplying.
We are forgetting investing for the future. We are just handling the present illness, present poverty, present situation, somehow trying to manage it. But at the same time, that's where the vision comes in. The political or our people or the government, they also have to invest in future. They have to keep an eye on the future.
Our strategy is not producing job seekers, but producing job creators. That's our
Fantastic.
motto.
The university is producing job creators, not job seekers. Fantastic.